NFL on CBS brings us to Cleveland, Ohio. Tennessee Titans trying to stay on course for an AFC Central Division title. We'll have the kickoff when we come back.
You heard about Benny the Bison?
No, what?
He never checked out the risk and overall performance of those mutual funds he bought.
Well, Benny's no brain surgeon, right?
When we created a smarter kind of investment firm, we created a smarter kind of investor with tools like the Schwab Select List, which highlights historically high-performing mutual funds. Visit schwabwelcome.com to order a free copy of the Select List.
You don't do your homework, you end up looking ridiculous.
Hi, I'm Chris Carter. I'd like to talk to you about a problem that can happen in your city, your community, to someone you love. The inability to tell the difference between a bid price and an ask price, a market order and a limit order. But thanks to programs like Web Shop, Schwab is making a difference. At Schwab branches across America, they'll teach you all about the world's leading online broker.
Last year, Schwab held over 10,000 web shops. To sign up for one or to attend our other workshops, call 1-800-9-SCHWAB.
The elements factor into this matchup today. The Browns and the Titans in Cleveland. 21 degrees, wind chill -6, and snow expected throughout. Will taper off maybe in the second half, third and fourth quarter. Stadium about half full. These are great football fans, and these are tough conditions to be in. Browns have won the toss. Tennessee to kick it off. Craig Hentrick on a fly to Jamel White. Here's White crossing what we assume is the 25-yard line. And he's knocked down by Frank Chamberlain. A 22-yard return. And here is Doug Peterson. He gets the start for Cleveland, coming off his best game as a pro last week in that loss to Philadelphia. But who knows who'll be in there before this one's done.
Was one of those wide receivers at the quarterback position, but expect gimmick plays today. Empty backfields, running backs lining up under quarterback. Anything's possible.
First and 10 at the 26. And Peterson on the draw play. Travis Prentice has a hole up the middle. And able to get across the 35 for a gain of 9.5. And a flag on the play somewhere. Our referee today, Tony Corrente. When we got here at about 10:30 mark, there was no snow on the field.
Holding, offense, number 75, 10-yard penalty, remains first down.
Steve Zahersky, normally the right tackle, has been starting at left guard because of injuries. And Chris Palmer, so much speculation in this area about his future, has a 5-year deal, but Palmer told us, hey, you can't worry about that right now. Put the blinders on. Empty backfield for the Browns, so they will start with some chicanery early on a 1st and 20. And now a shift. Out of the shotgun, it is Peterson. Peterson steps up, has the protection, and has his man, Mark Edwards, who is brought down very quickly by Greg Favors. He picks up 5.
9 special plays right off the bat. They take Doug Peterson and split him out, spread the offense out. There's no one in the backfield. The quarterback spread out to the left. He comes back in motion and gets back into his natural position, which is the quarterback position. Here's Peterson in motion. He'll come back to his natural position, shotgun position. They complete the play.
Just trying to catch Tennessee off guard a bit, but the Titans defensive players told us, hey, they're ready for anything. They looked at a lot of film this week. Doing it again. This time it's Prentice out of the shotgun. And nothing going. Loose football. A fight for it, and Eddie Robinson able to slide on top of it. So the bag of tricks comes back to haunt Cleveland as Prentice coughs it up.
And this is what happens when you have a player that's not in the position he's used to. He's back in the quarterback position, taking the shotgun snap. It's different handling the ball for Travis Prentice. Here he is going into motion. Now he's in the Q position, the quarterback position. Shotgun snap. He has the ball. Now he has to move the ball to where he's usually carrying it. Now he's carrying it down. But what happens? The Tennessee defense, they go and they strip the ball and come up with the turnover. This is what the Tennessee defense does. They attack from every angle, and they told us yesterday, no matter who's back in the quarterback position, we will attack them and put pressure on.
And a 1st and 10 for Tennessee at the 29-yard line of Cleveland after the turnover by Prentice. McNair Under center, Wycheck in motion, and George gets the call. George with a shake and bake move, trying to break loose, and he picks up yards running that left side. Dalen McCutcheon making the tackle. And it's a gain of 6. Steve McNair. Some felt he would not even play last week in the blowout victory over Cincinnati. Not only did he play, had probably his best game of the year with 3 touchdown passes.
And what a tough competitor. A knee injury, an ankle injury, didn't practice at the beginning of the week, didn't practice the entire week, goes into the game and just performs. That's what you have to have, a gritty performer as your general at the quarterback position.
The fullback Lorenzo Neal exits the field. He's now on the sideline, and George is by himself in the backfield. On 2nd and 4, swing pass. Here's George catching cleanly, breaking a tackle, and stumbling ahead for a modest gain. Courtney Brown cut him down low to make the stop. And let's take a look at Tennessee's offense. Pro Bowlers on that left side. Brad Hopkins goes to his first. Bruce Matthews goes to his 13th straight. Long, Olsen, and Miller round out the offensive line. Eddie George is in the Pro Bowl for the 4th. Derek Mason goes as a return specialist. And Frank Wycheck goes for the 3rd consecutive year. On 3rd down, Yancey Thigpen sets up as a receiver. 3rd one on the field. Wycheck also goes out in a pattern. And a quick throw to the sideline brought in by Sanders. And let's see where they spot it. Very close to a 1st down. From this angle, it appears to be a little bit short. And Cleveland not happy with where the ball was spotted.
In a situation like this, particularly receivers on the outside, you can't look at the field of play to find out where the marker is. You have to look behind you to the sidelines and look where the marker is. It's slippery out there. He has to come back to make the reception. This is going to be very close, but you have to be heady on the field of play to look to the sidelines to find out where that 1st down marker is.
Bring out the chains and extend short. Ball is spotted on the 19-yard. It'll be 4th and a little bit less than a yard. And they are going to go for it. In these conditions, why not?
You have to. When you've got a big physical tailback and Eddie George, you know all he has to do is fall forward at the line of scrimmage and he will get this 1st down.
The field here at Cleveland Brown Stadium covered in snow. Tennessee Titans able to force Cleveland into a turnover. Travis Prentice. And now a 4th and less than a yard. George and Neal in the backfield. McNair may have gotten Cleveland offsides. Here's George with a juke move, and he comes up short. A long count by McNair, and Arnold Miller may have jumped.
Offside. Defense, number 99. 5-yard penalty results of the play. 1st down.
The reason why Steve McNair took his time at the line of scrimmage because there's no one in the 0 hole over him. He was going to keep the ball in the quarterback keeper. Quarterbacks are taught this. All of a sudden, the defense for the Cleveland Browns, they shift, they cover the center at the last instant. Steve McNair has the audible out, but when he changes the cadence, he gets Cleveland to jump off sides.
And another mistake by the Cleveland Browns. It has plagued them throughout the season. This 3-12 campaign, wrapping things up against Tennessee here today. 1st and 10 now for Tennessee. Handoff. Eddie George looks for some room and is upended after he picks up 4 yards. Dalen McCutcheon making the tackle. Cleveland defensively comes in ranked 28th in the NFL. Keith McKenzie's had a fine season. Free agent from Green Bay, 8.5 sacks. Colonnay, Orpheus Roy, and Courtney Brown, the rookie, round out the defensive line. Changes at linebacker because of injuries. Marty Moore, Wally Rayner, Jameer Miller, the starting crew. And this group in the secondary has remained fairly healthy throughout the year. Ellsworth, Smith, and the veteran Corey Fuller. On 2nd down, it's a 2nd and 6. McNair can't handle the snap, and he is devoured in the backfield. McNair was forced to eat it after the ball hit the turf. Stalin Colonnay touched him down. It's a loss of 4.
Now this is just a bad center quarterback exchange. Right here, keep an eye on Steve McNair. He pulls out, the ball's not in his hands, and that's just a mental error. It's not that wet out there. It is very cold, so you have to concentrate on getting your fundamentals down and get your basics down. Get the reception first, the handoff from the center to the quarterback.
If you're the Browns, though, Mark, you are loving this weather. This is an equalizer today.
Absolutely. This is fun weather. When you're a little kid and you're out there playing outside around Christmas time, the holidays, hey, you've got to remember
of the shotgun. McNair looking to throw it. McNair steps up in the pocket. Now back. Throwing. Too high. Intended receiver Chris Sanders. Incomplete in a matchup with Corey Fuller.
Now, and going back to that equalizer, you can't get your footing on a field like this. It's like playing on ice, and the offensive linemen can't get their footing. The defensive secondary, if you're a wide receiver, it's tough to run your routes because you cannot run precise routes, so it's difficult to practice under these circumstances. In this situation, you throw it to the back of the end zone, you want your receiver, Chris Sanders, to go up and get it, but Steve McNair just throws it out of the end zone.
Al Del Greco, kicking game could be so important here today. And Del Greco has had his ups and downs this year. A 33-yard attempt, hoping to get Tennessee on the board. Del Greco bangs it through, and the Titans score first. Take advantage of a turnover, and they lead the Browns 3-0. Jeff Fisher's team looking for a home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs.
Owning a Jeep Cherokee means more than just freedom. It means you're part of something bigger. And now get all this for no extra charge.
One team, a football team, driving down Soldier with,
1:13 left on the clock.
1 minute, 13 seconds left on the clock, and
no timeouts left.
No timeouts left because the coach has stupidly used them all up.
Football fans can find anything they need at Chicago's Electra Electronics, provided they have Visa. Because if you try to use American Express,
and we score!
You don't have a prayer. Visa, it's everywhere NFL fans want to be.
The holidays are jammed. Kansas collides with Ohio State, or Joe Forte leads North Carolina against Jason Capono and UCLA. Saturday on CBS.
It's going to take a little bit more than a broom to keep this field clean here today. The snow continues to fall. And the Tennessee Titans have a 3-0 lead on the Cleveland Browns. 10-11 mark of the first quarter. Ian Eagle, Mark May, our entire CBS crew with you from snowy Cleveland, Ohio. The Browns playing in their season finale. Their bye week coming week 17 for the second consecutive year. And looking to improve to 12-3 and move one step closer to wrapping up the #1 seed in the postseason AFC. They remain one game ahead of Baltimore in the AFC Central, and that Oakland loss changes things a bit in the playoff picture, Mark. Now Denver has a chance to move up and get a home game early.
And for the Denver Broncos, the way that they've been able to come on, particularly running the ball with Mike Anderson, the rookie, and winning game after game through the month of November, I think they put a lot of pressure on the Oakland Raiders.
Hendrick, bouncing kick, fielded by Earl Little. Little cutting middle of the field, and he is bumped down. Loose football again. Keith Bullock came in, and the Cleveland Browns recover it with Salah. It's a 13-yard return right around the 25-yard line. This thing has been ugly. We played about 4 minutes of football. We'll come back to Cleveland. Browns have the football when we return.
This is Tito. He's here to see the Johnson's vacation photos. Oh! Mr. Johnson has the iOmega Photo Show. It lets him enjoy digital photos on TV. He doesn't even need a computer. Neat! The Johnsons save their photos on a zip disk. Mrs. Johnson says it's the photo album of the future. Would Tito like a copy? No, thank you. Photo show? Zip. Zip it.
The affordable Jeep Cherokee. How will
you send in your low monthly payment. Now get all this at no extra charge.
Now at Zales, you'll find exquisite diamond and platinum jewelry. Your choice, only $199. Twinkling lights seem to put everyone in the holiday spirit. At Zales stores nationwide or shop online at Zales.com.
I know what you're thinking, you and her, right? Wrong! You look like you shaved with a belt sander. Here's a tip, Panasonic Sonic Shaving. That's 13,000 RPMs of pure speed and power. Panasonic Sonic Shaving. Now you're up to speed. Kids.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Bud Light. For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. IBM, taking e-business and your business to the next level. And by Chrysler, we're reinventing the passion for driving.
The wind is whipping here. Tennessee leads the Browns 3-0. 10 minutes to play in the first quarter. 1st and 10 for the Browns from their own 24. Handoff. Jamel White looks for a hole, and he is trampled out after a gain of 2. Cleveland Browns offensively changes on the offensive line because of injuries, and the big one to Dave Woolabaugh in the middle, missing his 4th consecutive game. Sean O'Hara's done a good job. Chris Palmer has been very happy with the way that he stepped in. Backs and receivers, Travis Prentice, 2 touchdown attempt last week against Philadelphia with Kevin Johnson, who lined up at quarterback last week, starting with David Patton and Aaron Shea as the tight end. 2nd and 8. Tennessee crowding the line of scrimmage. Misdirection. Here's Peterson connecting with Aaron Shea, but is unable to push the football forward, and he picks up only 3 yards. Marcus Robertson was all over that, the free safety. Tell you about the Tennessee defense. Pro Bowler on that defensive line. It's Javon Curse. Kenny Holmes missing another game. Told us he expects him back next week. Henry Ford stepping in at defensive end. Linebackers, what a performance by Randall Godfrey last week. He was asked to mirror Corey Dillon, and he did exactly that with 13 tackles in the win over Cincinnati. Samari Rolle going to the Pro Bowl for the first time, and Blaine Bishop going to his 4th Pro Bowl, the strong safety for Tennessee. On a 3rd and 5, shotgun for Peterson. Steps up, zings one to the sideline, and a sliding catch made by White. And it's ruled incomplete. He couldn't bring it in cleanly. Godfrey had the coverage.
And pressure at the end of the play by Javon Curse. And I spoke with Javon Curse just before the game. He said the biggest problem that he will have is his footing on the field today. He went to the University of Florida. He said, I'm not used to playing in this cold. I said, you're going to have fun. You're going to enjoy it. He said, not really. I can't wait till it's over.
Gardocki will punt it. Came close to going to the Pro Bowl himself. Darren Bennett was named punter for the AFC, and Gardocki able to spin one forward. Takes a strange bounce and is down right around the 35-yard line. That's where Tennessee will have it. They already have a 3-0 lead.
I can't do anything without the instructions. Nothing.
It's okay. She's got other presents.
They were just here. They're right here. I just had them.
We'll just hide this till her birthday.
She's been wanting this for a long time. If I only had those instructions.
Look in the box.
I looked in there.
Did you take everything out of it?
Oh, here they are.
Open, tank B inlet, close. Venture 7, your mission is complete. It's time to come home. Good man, hurry back. We've got some ice cold Bud Lights waiting for you.
Hey, Larry, did you get those rocks in?
For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light.
Where's Smith? Catching later flight, sir.
I want you to get together.
Players! This is a week. It's playoff time! You don't know if you're coming back to the top next year. You don't even know if you're coming back. So come on now, show me something!
Congratulations.
Congratulations to Everybody Loves Raymond on its 2 People's Choice nominations.
You know what I think?
If I say yes, do you still have to tell me?
Everybody Loves Raymond, CBS Monday.
Kurt Warner has no room for wiggle. He's got to come out firing like an MVP.
NFL Today, Sunday on CBS.
Titans had a season-high 443 yards offense last week. They will be hard-pressed to match that number here today in snowy Cleveland. Titans defensive players just trying to stay warm on the sidelines as Tennessee gets the football back. A 1st and 10 at their own 35. George is in the backfield. Wycheck goes in motion. McNair on the give. Here's Eddie George up the middle, and he is met by McKenzie. No gain on the play.
Tennessee offense went with their power. They pulled their left guard, and he couldn't make the block, and that's Benji Olsen.
Well, the Cleveland defense has given up big rushing games, and it's fitting that we would have the snow motif. We don't have the Alps here in Cleveland, but you see the numbers against this Cleveland defense. Fred Taylor had the big day, 181 yards. Romeo Crennel, defensive coordinator of the Browns, has done the best he can do with a group of players, not much depth. They have shown improvement. Pass is dropped by Wycheck, and fortunate that it was not returned for a touchdown as he popped it up in the air. And you know there is bad blood with Frank Wycheck. The statements that he made following the game the last time these two teams played on November the 19th, a 24-10 victory. Tennessee turned it over 7 times. Wycheck basically said after the game, hey, if we didn't turn it over, we blow this team out. They didn't belong on the same field as us. He retracted his statements this week.
And a lot of players, and of course he's going to retract it the week that you played that opponent, but a lot of these players had a lot of pride on this Cleveland Brown defense. Corey Fuller is one of them, and he brought that up to us. He said he didn't forget the comments that Frank Wycheck made.
Wycheck tried to back away from the comments this week, said they were misconstrued. 3rd and 10. Inside handoff. Eddie George keeps the legs churning, but it's a gain of only 3. Stalin Colonnade making the tackle up the middle, and Tennessee will punt.
And for the Cleveland Brown defense, this is a big... They're a very good defense on 1st down, but they're horrendous on 3rd down. And what they want to do is they want to put pressure on quarterback Steve McNair on 3rd down situations, but also with that pass rush, make sure that they close the pocket. If they hand it off to Eddie George, they have enough hats around him to make the tackle. Romeo Crennel wants to put pressure on this offense as much as possible. When you have bad weather games, you want to make sure you get 7 and 8 men in the box to try to stop the run.
Craig Hentrick to punt it. Lamar Chapman is standing at the 20. He's the rookie out of Kansas State. He loses the football, and Tennessee has recovered. 4 fumbles already in the first quarter. Cleveland has lost 2 of them. Rodney Thomas, the recovery on special teams.
And for the Cleveland Browns, they just have to hang on to the football. Plain and simple, protect the football. In weather like this, a lot of the players are wearing long sleeves. Well, if you're not used to wearing long sleeves all the time, you have to become conducive of it. You have to squeeze the ball with both. The Cleveland Browns are just putting the ball on the ground. And if you look at the Tennessee Titans, a lot of their players aren't wearing the long sleeves. They're going out there, and they're used to that.
Second forced fumble by Greg Favors. Browns have now fumbled the ball 3 times. They've turned it over twice, and great field position for Tennessee. On a 1st and 10 at the 27. Here's the toss for George. Eddie George trying to get it to the outside. And George angles his way to the sideline as he picks up 7.
Now that's what I like. I like the wide receivers like Eddie George. He's a throwback guy. He's not wearing long sleeves out there. He's protecting the football. He's used to it. He's used to having that leather football against his skin. He doesn't want to take a chance of wearing a thermal on top of his skin. But for Eddie George, he's used to this type of weather. Went to Ohio State. When we spoke with him the other night, he told us, hey, I love this kind of weather. I wouldn't expect anything less. December in Cleveland, you expect it to be cold, to snow, and wind.
George had the 1 rushing touchdown last week against Cincinnati. Had 2 touchdowns receiving his first 2. Tennessee leading it 3-0, 6.5 to play in the first. Handoff, George tripped up and nowhere to run. Arnold Miller in on the stop. It's a loss of 1. It'll bring up 3rd and 4.
For the Cleveland Browns, they're doing an excellent job of getting penetration in the backfield. Their defensive front 5 are getting deep enough in the backfield that Eddie George just stumbles over the foot of Tyrone Rogers. That's what the Cleveland Browns have to do. They have to make sure that they at least get the orange hats of the Browns in the offensive backfield of the Tennessee Titans.
On 3rd down, Tennessee from the 21-yard line. Shotgun for McNair. Steps up, throws, timing pattern to the end zone. Incomplete, and a flag down. Chris Sanders and Corey Fuller, the matchup in the corner.
That's easy enough to tell. That'll be defensive pass interference on Corey Fuller. Never turned and looked, had his hands all over Chris.
Fuller is still jawing at the side, Judge.
Pass interference, defense number 24. As the foul occurred in the end zone, the ball will be placed at the 1-yard line. Automatic first down.
And at the top of the screen, Corey Fuller never turns to face the ball. When the wide receiver turns, you're supposed to turn all the way around. Here he has contact even before the ball gets there, and that's where the infraction occurs.
A 3 tight end formation for Tennessee on a 1st and goal from the 1. So the Titans take advantage of another turnover and are an extra point away from taking a 10-0 lead. They've not done much offensively, but still with a 10-point bulge.
They haven't had to, and here it's just winning the attack. You get 2 tight ends, smash mouth football, goal line situation, and you pound it in with a big running back. That's Jeff Fisher's forte on offense. Hey, he's going to put all the weight on the shoulders of his running back, Eddie George. In a situation like that, bad weather game like this, there's no question. Hand it to Eddie George and pound the football in, and they do it in 1 attempt.
11th rushing touchdown of the season for Eddie George. Al Del Greco curls in the extra point. And the Titans in front, 10-0. A flag down and a skirmish after the extra point from Del Greco. Able to break things up. Extra point counts, and Tennessee extends its lead. We'll come back to Cleveland in a moment.
Sponsored by Priority Mail from the U.S. Postal Service. And by Circuit City. Circuit City. Imagine that.
1-yard touchdown run for Eddie George, and Tennessee leads Cleveland 10-0 here in the first quarter. Titans will kick it off. A 3-play, 27-yard drive after the turnover from Lamar Chapman, his first NFL punt return. And he coughs it up. Could be his last NFL punt return. Well, at least for the year 2000. Taken on a bounce. Tariq Salah. And they push the pile forward. Out across the 40-yard line, a 15-yard return. Is Frank Wycheck a marked man here today?
Yes, he is. The comments that he made about the Cleveland Browns saying they didn't deserve to be on the field with him, and the defensive secondary, those players personally. Earl Little's over there. Corey Fuller had him earlier, and Percy Ellsworth's in the middle of that. But they're letting him know right away it's going to be a long afternoon for Frank Wycheck.
First meeting was a 24-10 Tennessee victory. 7 Titan turnovers, and a personal foul has been assessed against Tennessee.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 35. He kicked the player, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. Number 35 has been ejected from the game.
And Jeff Fisher just gave Perry Phoenix a mouthful.
And he should have, because to kick a player on the field, first, it's a stupid penalty. You never kick anyone. You know you're going to be ejected out of the game, which he has been and he should be. And Jeff Fisher's hostile because he just let Perry Phoenix know, 1, we're not that type of football team. We're not a dirty football team. And 2, we play smart football. And 3, you just cost us. So go ahead and go to the locker room.
Already down in the secondary with the injury to Danon. Marcus Robertson is not 100%. He's been banged up with a leg injury. And a 1st and 10 for Cleveland in Tennessee territory. Handoff goes up the middle for Travis Prentice. And no gain on the play. It'll be 2nd and 10 from the 45 as Greg Favors makes the stop. Perry Phoenix being escorted.
Well, there's good and bad for Perry Phoenix. 1, he's going to get fined. 2, he's not going to play in this game. But 3, at least he'll be warm inside of the locker.
Yeah, he's out of the cold, but You try to balance those out.
I think he's going to hear a lot from him.
I think the bad outweighs the good in this particular situation for Perry Phoenix. Now in his third year out of Southern Mississippi, free agent, signed back in 1998. Here's Prentice, able to find an opening and pushes himself forward for a gain of 3. Greg Favors again makes the coming over from his left linebacking position.
And you look at this Tennessee defense, they really don't get respect around the NFL. You hear about Javon Curse, but you don't hear about the other players on this team. Samari Rolle had an outstanding season, his first Pro Bowl this season. Denard Walker, Blaine Bishop, Marcus Robinson, Randall Godfrey. That is a player that I believe should be in Hawaii at the end of the season. He has one heck of a season this year, and he is their man in the middle.
Yeah, but who do you want to replace, Ray Lewis or Sam Cowher? Can't do it.
They should send 3 then.
4-yard gain for Prentice, working off that right side, and Eddie Robinson will be given credit for the tackle. It'll be 4th and 3. Browns fans want this team to go for it. And Jeff Fisher calling out to his defense and now his special teams to get ready.
And at this point of the season for the Cleveland Browns, why not go for it? You've used a bunch of gimmick and gadget plays last week. You've tried a few this game.
And you're not even either offense is going to be able to move the football here, so even if you turn it over at the 39-yard line, you have to feel like you might be able to stop them. Chris Gardocki looking for the corner, takes a roll, and inside the 5, it's down. There's the other option. Pin the Titans back and make them earn it. Turns out to be the right decision after the 36-yard punt. Now the fans that did show up here in Cleveland are a spirited group. Now they're rooting on their defense. 1st and 10 for Tennessee from their own 4-yard line. Titans lead it 10-0, 3.5 to play in the first quarter. Eddie George is in the backfield, out of the end zone on the draw play. It's George up the middle in a big hole. George accelerates, and he crosses the 15-yard line for a gain of 12. Lorenzo Neal with a key block up front.
You're absolutely right, Ian. Keep an eye on the fullback Lorenzo Neal right here. He's going to go one-on-one in the middle of the hole, gets great leverage, gets down low, right into Wally Rayner, and throws an excellent block on the middle linebacker and just drives him out of the way, allowing Eddie George to pick up the big yard.
You know, it's funny. You asked Jeff Fisher, is there somebody on his team that he felt should be in Hawaii? First name that came out of his mouth, Steve McNair. He felt that Steve McNair deserved a Pro Bowl berth. Get into that in a second. Another draw play. George this time trying to spin off a tackle. And he was able to lunge forward to pick up about a yard. Marty Moore makes the stop. What do you think when Fisher told that to us yesterday?
Well, I think when you break it down, I think a lot has to be added in the team's record. How the quarterback's playing. If you look at him just based on numbers of Steve McNair, he doesn't deserve to go. But it's the other intangibles. He plays hurt. He guides his team to victory. And you look at some of the other quarterbacks like a Brian Greasy. Phenomenal numbers, but he missed almost a month. Still voted him into the Pro Bowl. I don't think that's right.
That would be the one guy you could make a case for, because Rich Gannon and Peyton Manning deserve to be there. Another give for Eddie George, and George runs into the pile. Rayner and Marty Moore combine to make that stop after he picks up a couple.
And one thing for sure you're not going to see out of any of the running backs today, a lot of moves. You're not going to see any shiftiness on the field today. It's going to be downhill, straight ahead, hit the hole, power running. And I think that's where Tennessee has a big advantage over the Cleveland Browns. They don't have that type of back, that type of offensive line, or the mentality. The Browns aren't old school like the Titans are. Look at the Titans from their head coach down. This is an old school football team. Reminds me of the Redskins in the NFC East in the 80s.
3rd and 5 now. Shotgun formation. McNair steps up, wants to run it himself. Here's McNair. Tackled from behind, and he's got the first down for Tennessee. Courtney Brown with good lateral movement to get to McNair. But it was too late. New set of downs for Tennessee to work with.
This is a nice call by offensive coordinator Mike Heimerdinger. This play is set up from the start. Steve McNair is supposed to set back, let the linebackers drop into their zones. Jameer Miller just runs to the outside. He doesn't even know it's a quarterback keeper. He gets excellent blocking at the point of attack up the field to play. Look at the offensive lineman, Long. Everybody down the field, the center, pushing defenders down the field, protecting their quarterback.
And McNair is closing in on 400 yards rushing this season. Floats one out upstairs and incomplete. Derek Mason, one-on-one 1-on-1 with Dalen McCutcheon. It'll be 2nd and 10 with under a minute to play in the first.
Now, and two things with this wind and this cold weather. One, you're not going to see timing patterns and precise routes. You're going to see a wide receiver is going to get wide open because a defensive back is going to slip, or the ball's going to be thrown up for grabs, and one of the two has to come down and fight for it.
The sweeping continues on the sideline here in Cleveland. Snow continues to fall, expected throughout the first half. Taper off in the second half. George gets the call up the middle, and a crowd of Cleveland defenders in to make the play. A gain of 1. Darius Holland helping to lead that charge for the Browns.
And for these Tennessee Titans, in weather like this, and I played in a lot of bad weather games like this, particularly late in the season, they've got the counter tray in their bag of tricks. And that's a play where you pull your backside, you block down onside. And what that does in bad weather fields like this and sloppy conditions, it opens up lanes for the running back, huge lanes. All you need is one good kickout block, and you're going to allow the back to go north and south.
You just hope the footing is good enough to take advantage of it for George or Rodney Thomas if he gets the call. A 4-receiver look on a 3rd and 9. Operating out of the shotgun. Should be the final play of the first, and McNair is sacked. Raheem Abdullah, and a flag down. We believe that's Chris Palmer, the head coach of the Browns, right there.
It looks like him.
We'll have to get confirmation. A face mask called against Cleveland.
Personal foul, grabbing the face mask, number 78 defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
Tyrone Rogers, first-year player, even when the Browns experience a little bit of success, something like this happens.
And that's what happens to a team when things aren't going right for you. You get a big play on the outside by Raheem Abdullah, and something happens inside that's ridiculous where you grab a face mask of a player. There's no need for that, particularly if you're rushing the passer.
Tennessee would have punted. Instead, the Browns hand them a first down. It's the end of the first quarter. Tennessee leading Cleveland 10-0. We'll come back to Cleveland Browns Stadium after this message. Notice the opening moments of the second quarter. Welcome back to Cleveland, everybody. Ian Eagle, Mark May, with our entire crew. A December day in Cleveland, Ohio. And the Titans and Browns dealing with the elements as McNair hands it off to Eddie George. A 1st and 10 from the 41. George breaks 2 tackles and cuts it to the outside. Ridden out of bounds after a gain of 10. Marquise Smith was the man that drove him to the sideline. Now, the Titans are kind of like the anti-Buccaneers, the way that they've played in cold weather conditions.
Absolutely, but to me, 48 degrees, that's not cold. You know, I want to know what it's like 25 degrees and colder. Tell me one of those stats. I want one of those graphics. They just don't get an opportunity to play in that many bad weather games. But, hey, Jeff Fisher, their coach, playing in Chicago, he played in a lot of cold weather games.
George so far, 12 carries, 47 yards. He does have the touchdown and a clump of snow combined with grass on his helmet. McNair throws underneath the coverage and complete. It's ruled a catch for Yancey Thigpen. Corey Fuller had the coverage, 9 yards, and a little bit short of a first down.
Nice protection for quarterback Steve McNair. He puts a little mustard on this pass, and that is a catch by Yancey Thigpen. Great concentration on the outside. For Yancey Thigpen to come back in this offense, had a huge touchdown reception last week. Just one of it, took it away from 2 Cincinnati defenders and ran it in for the touchdown.
2nd and 1 from the 40. It's George. Stumbles forward. Will it be enough for the first down? Arnold Miller got him down low as George was trying to circle his way up the middle.
Eddie's got to take that clump of grass off his helmet there.
I like it.
That looks good for now, but it's going to be a problem later. Look at his jersey. Now, that's a Warrior. His jersey's ripped in the back. There's holes on the side of it. He's getting a lot of big hits out there, but he's a Warrior. You got to like a player like him because he plays hurt. He plays every week. He's never missed a start in his NFL career.
Played at Ohio State. We figured he would have a number of friends coming for this game. He said, no, not really. The Titans play Cincinnati. That's when he gets the call from the former college chums. Flag down, George. Again, nowhere to go, but he didn't get it on a 3rd and 1 from the 40. Courtney Brown there to make sure he didn't hit the marker. But as mentioned, a flag on the play.
And Steve McNair, that's the second time with his voice inflection at the line of scrimmage got...
Defense, number 73. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Got the Cleveland Browns to jump off sides.
It's the third time that Tennessee would have punted, potentially.
Eddie George trying to take it off. Let me see. Let me get it off. It's in my eye. It's in my ear. And hey, there's my buddy Lorenzo Neal. Hey, Lorenzo, my fullback. Get that off. Brush it away. Has his finger in there. Pushes a little bit away. Just grab the whole thing with your hand, Lorenzo. Pull it down.
That'd be easier said than done. That thing is lodged in pretty tight. And a first from the 35. Play fake. McNair throwing on the run. Wide open. Derek Mason turns it upfield, and Mason is spun down inside the 5. Tennessee is moving the football. And Corey Fuller brought him down to the ground after a 33-yard hookup.
And what a phenomenal route by Derek Mason. And what he does is he sits down on this play. They go with a fake boot. Watch the running back, Eddie George. He'll slip on the play. He doesn't even get a block. But Steve McNair has the presence of mind of moving the pocket, rolling away. He sees Derek Mason sitting down wide open, and Mason turns and plants and uses his hand for balance and picks up the additional yardage for the Tennessee Titans.
And Mason is closing in on the all-purpose yardage record held by Lionel Little Train James. First and goal now. Tennessee with a chance to add to its lead. Here's the pitch. George trying to break a tackle, circling, and spins his way in. Touchdown, Tennessee. Roy could not bring him down before the goal line. And George with his second rushing touchdown of the day. Titans a point after away from a 17-0 advantage.
And for Orpheus Roy with a big full running back like Eddie George, you have to get him low. If you're going to try to tackle him high around the shoulders, he's not going to go down. He's just going to stiff arm you just like that. A nice straight arm. Then he just rolls into the end zone and uses his strength and spins into the end zone. But for Orpheus Roy, when you get a big running back like that, you have to go at his legs and bring him down.
Now remember where that drive started. Cleveland had pinned Tennessee at their own 4. And they went 96 yards to add to the lead. Extra point for Al Del Greco. Eddie George being worked on the sideline. They're operating on George. He's operating on Cleveland. 17-0 Tennessee leading Cleveland. Second rushing touchdown of the day for Eddie George. Like the $6 million man. We can rebuild him, Steve Austin.
It's like knit one, purl two, but really they don't have a seamstress on the sidelines. What that is, that's the equipment managers, and equipment managers are used to doing this because it's much easier just to sew it up on the sidelines and change your jersey at halftime than to change your jersey on the sidelines.
It's like a cut man in the corner for the Tennessee Titans. Hentrich kicks it off after the touchdown and taken by the up man Mark Edwards. Edwards cutting it to the sideline and finally brought down close to midfield by Terry Killens from behind. Browns have good field position. They have no points to show for their effort so far. It's 17-0.
Sponsored by Honda, a winning lineup of cars, sport utility vehicles, and minivans. Interstate batteries, power fast, built to last. And by American Express. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, American Express do more.
Tennessee 17, Cleveland nothing. Snow continues to come down in sheets here in Cleveland.
Sorry.
And the Browns have a 1st and 10 at their own 48-yard line for Doug Peterson, among the 7 quarterbacks who have been in uniform this year for the Cleveland Browns. An amazing number, an inordinate amount of injuries for the Browns to deal with this year. Jamel White on the carry, but a flag thrown.
Prior to the snap, ball start. Offense, number 82, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
David Patton called on that one a false start for Cleveland.
Man, those are the penalties that drive a coach crazy. If you're a wide receiver on the outside, you don't move until the ball moves. You can't hear the quarterback's cadence. That should never happen.
Already 6 penalties on the Browns, costing them better than yards in 1st and 15. Here's White. Wants a blocker, but spinning his way to the outside, and the Tennessee Titans converge, including Blaine Bishop. No call. Well, Well, we talked about the Browns' injuries this year, and Tim Couch, Ty Detmer, the rest of the fun bunch there on the sideline. 14 players on injured reserve for Chris Palmer and company, and really, Mark, one of the reasons why Palmer should be back next year. He has not played with a full deck.
No, he hasn't. When you lose your starting quarterback, your backup quarterback, your starting running back, wide receivers, offensive linemen, it's not fair. And this team doesn't have any depth. Second year back in expansion, how do you expect them to compete with that many injuries?
Peterson sets up as a receiver. High snap for Jamel White. And White looking to run it out of the shotgun formation. Jason Fisk brings him down. And no gain. The trickery is not working now for Cleveland. Tennessee was able to get a glance at what they were doing last week.
They've got Jamal White, the backup running back, in the queue, the quarterback position, and it's a high snap. He does field it, but Tennessee's just going after him. Javon Curse on the outside makes him run the ball straight ahead. But here's the key. These plays and these trick plays, they were nice, they were effective last week when they were in a good weather game. Now in a game like this, I think they should bag it and just go back to their basic offense.
Browns with 20 yards of total offense. And here's Peterson on 3rd and 15. Fires incomplete. Patton with a sliding attempt. And it would have been a big gainer for Cleveland. Samari Rolle and Marcus Robertson had coverage as Patton found a lane.
Now this is just David Patton just running down the seam. This is a ball he should catch. He hears the footsteps of Marcus Robertson. That's a ball that you have to come down with. You're going across the middle, no one's next to you, you get a hand on it. That should be a reception for the Cleveland Browns.
Patton's already set a career high with 35 catches this season, number 36. Would have been a bonus for the Browns offensively. Gardocki gets it away. Left-footed punter takes a strange bounce as it sails through the air, and Cleveland again has downed it inside the 5 with Bobby Brown, the wide receiver, touching it up after the 53-yard punt. That's some weird English on that ball off the foot of Gardocki. We'll step aside. Tennessee pinned in its own territory once again. Tennessee with a 17-0 lead over Cleveland. They will start this drive at the 4.
At the 4-yard line, the ball will be placed at that spot, first down.
Well, there you have it. 4-yard line will be the line of scrimmage. On a winter afternoon in Cleveland, Ohio. Christmas came a little bit early. 1st and 10 for Tennessee. They took it 96 yards for a touchdown their last drive. And now here's McNair changing the play at the line of forming Sanders and Mason. George is in the backfield. McNair floats it up high and caught by Wycheck, and he's spun down. No gain, maybe one, depending upon where they spot it. Raheem Abdullah able to wrap him up.
This is an area that Tennessee really wanted to work on, is first down. They had a tough time on first down against Cleveland in the first game. Even though they won the game, Cleveland stuffed them on first down passes, first down runs. Jeff Fisher told us point blank. That's one of the areas we emphasized practicing that we worked on this week, is getting yardage on first down.
It was Stalin Collinet with a tackle on Wycheck after the catch and a 2nd and 10. Handoff. George drives forward and picks up 2. Just about everybody involved defensively for Cleveland, including Keith McKenzie. And the clock continues to roll as we come up on 9 minutes to play in the first half.
This is one of those PP games in the trench, meaning push-pull. You have to get into your blocks, you have to grab a hold, and you have to stay on the defenders and keep moving your feet, because there aren't going to be those big gaping, gashing holes there. You're just going to have to keep pushing the pile.
Call it a 3rd and 7. McNair so far throwing 5 of 8, 45 yards. Draw play. George finds the opening, and George trying to break it to the outside. It's enough for a first down. Todd Franz with the stop, and a 10-yard gain for George. New set of downs for Tennessee.
And the reason why they play so successful, watch the cut that Eddie George makes. He goes straight ahead, boom, right there, cuts all the way to his left, runs away from the tacklers of the Cleveland Browns, and then it's just power running. Tremendous vision by Eddie George. He sees there's nothing onside where he wants to take it, and cuts it back to the open area.
16 carries, 62 yards, and the line of scrimmage is now the 17. George has been the workhorse here in the first half. Up the middle, George bowling over a tackler, And Eddie George able to carry for a gain of 8. Percy Ellsworth the stop. Let's get an NFL update right now. We go to New York and Jim Nantz.
And the Broncos in for at Arrowhead. Let's go back to you.
The door is open, Jim, because of Oakland's loss against Seattle yesterday. Controversial ending there with a safety call. Here's George. Unable to cut it upfield, and George had to deal with the onslaught of Cleveland tacklers. It's a loss of 1. Wally Rayner combining with Marcus Spriggs.
Man, talk about this Tennessee offense. They don't get a lot of notoriety because they're grinders. They get their 3 or 4 yards. They keep pushing it upfield. They win by 3 points or 4 points. They're not a team like a Louis Rand teams that scores 40 or 50 points. But the bottom line is they just continue to win football games.
Well, Tennessee is hoping this is the last time that they play away from Nashville until Tampa in late January. If they can lock up home field advantage throughout, Adelphia Coliseum is a tough place for a visitor to perform. And a 3rd and 3 for the Titans. George runs into a crowd, and he is not going to come close. First man there, Marcus Spriggs. And no gain for Eddie George. And again, some extracurricular activities.
And there's Frank Wycheck right in the middle of it again.
Derek Mason was pulled away from the crowd.
You know, and this is one of those instances where maybe we're seeing a rivalry develop in the AFC Centrals, because Tennessee, they had Jack, which they've been able to defeat Jacksonville a lot, and then Pittsburgh. That was the rival. Now the Baltimore Ravens. Now Cleveland's got a chip on their shoulder in this game.
But another flag. Should be a punting situation for Tennessee, and it will be. A personal foul called on the Titans. Already the Browns have made some mistakes in situations where they would have gotten the football back, ending Tennessee drives. And now Mason is pleading his case to Jeff Fisher. Had a chance to talk to Derek Mason, and what a year it's been.
Unnecessary roughness on the offense. The penalty is declined. 4th down.
Titans will punt it. Mason has really come into his own this year, not only as a return specialist, but because of the injuries at wide receiver, Mason has taken it up to another level.
And it's just opportunities. When we talk to him, he's gotten an opportunity. He had a big year his rookie year. Then he kind of got lost in the shuffle. They brought in Yancey Thigpen, drafted a few players, and they bring in Carl Pickens this year. You know, he thought he might here, but because of his return ability and because of the way that he played during the injuries, he's now become a star in Tennessee. Chapman,
he will get another crack, this time a fair catch, and he had some room to work with. They'll spot the football right around the 36. Titans in front, 17-0.
Don't hang around and let your problems surround you. There's no movie shows downtown. Maybe you know some little place to go where they never close. Downtown, just listen to the rhythm of a gentle bossa nova. Be dancing with them too before the night is over. Happy again.
Yes, is sponsored by Gateway. In Gateway country, people rule. And by the world's fastest shaver, Panasonic's Baby. Get up to speed.
$70-0, Tennessee leading Cleveland. For a complete breakdown of all playoff scenarios, including updates at the conclusion of each game, click on NFL at cbs.sportsline.com. Browns have the football, a 1st and 10 at their own 37-yard line. You know, Chris Palmer talked about all the injuries at quarterback. They give out T-shirts now that say QB School, just trying to teach the system to all these new QBs coming in. Hand off for Travis Prentice, and Prentice able to break one tackle. Blaine Bishop brings him down after a gain of 5. This is nothing new, though, Mark, for Doug Peterson. Back in 1995, as a member of the Green Bay Packers, there were 6 QBs at one point on that roster.
And that's what happens in the NFL. Those 6 quarterbacks, Brett Favre, Ty Detmer, who's here in Cleveland, Jim McMahon, Doug Peterson, Mike McCoy, and TJ.
7 QBs so far this season for Cleveland, including Jeff Brom, who was signed earlier in the week. Peterson flares one to the outside, and David Patton. First down for the Browns. crosses the 45. Bernard Walker makes the stop. And it is their first down of the day, and that's why you're getting the reaction from the crowd.
They're into it. They are definitely Cleveland Brown fans. And last week, they were giving this team standing ovation, particularly the offensive team. And here, just for a first down, even quarterback Doug Peterson says, hey, we're moving the chains. First time today.
Well, they had 25 first downs last week, and that loss to Philadelphia, only 3 the week before against Jacksonville. Peterson in the pocket. Steps up, has the protection, and tried to hit Shea in stride. Incomplete. Eddie Robinson, the linebacker, had the coverage one-on-one. Just under 5 minutes to play now, first half.
Now, a player for this Cleveland Browns offense that needs to think with the offense is Kevin Johnson. Led all rookies last year with 8 touchdown receptions, has 0 this year, but you really can't blame it on him. He's had so many quarterbacks to work with, but at least you have to attempt to get him the football.
Now, Johnson told us, despite all the problems this year at the quarterback position, he feels like he's gotten better from year 1 to year 2 as a receiver, and his numbers are respectable. 55 catches, 666 yards. The give to Prentice, and trying to sidestep, unable to do so. A gain of 1. Tennessee was ready for that play defensively. Clock continues to roll now. 17-0. The Titans leading the Browns. Tennessee, destiny in their own hands. If they win out the rest of the way, Titans will be the #1 seed in the AFC.
And as a player, that's the way you want it. You want it plain and simple, stick it in front of you. This is what you have to do. Home field advantage is so important in the playoff. You don't have to travel. You have your home fans behind you, and you're used to what happens in your stadium. It's your own mode that you're in.
We have subtitles for you today. Ball at midfield, just to give you an idea of where things stand on a snowy Cleveland Browns stadium field. Timeout called by Cleveland. 17-0 Titans. Special edition of the NFL on CBS, featuring Fred Taylor and the resurgent Jacksonville Jaguars taking on Kerry Collins and the playoff-hungry New York Giants. Check it out next Saturday here on CBS. On a 3rd and 9 from the 50, Peterson will operate out of the shotgun. Here's Peterson. Too low and incomplete. He was looking for Bobby Brown, the rookie out of Notre Dame. And the Browns will punt it again.
And the pressure on the outside by Greg Favors comes across and nails quarterback Doug Peterson. But Bobby Brown, this ball's thrown low, and this is the reason why. They run a T stunt on the outside. Come around, no one touches him. He's got a clear path to Doug Peterson, and he's got to get rid of the ball a lot earlier than he'd like to.
2 returners are back deep for Tennessee as Chris Gardocki will punt it. Mason, the normal returner, and Yancey Thigpen is there as well. Here's Mason, unable to field it initially. Now Mason trying to create after the catch. Here's Mason. Get him to the sideline, hurdling, and Mason is finally forced out of bounds. Good job by Derek Mason just to pick up positive yardage. It's a 14-yard gain.
Just to field the ball, he doesn't do it cleanly, but he gets up and he makes something happen out of nothing. That's why he's going to the Pro Bowl. He deserved it this year. Picks up blockers, he gets blockers, the blockers come back. And he told us when we talked to him, hey, the most important thing on a return man, the guys that are out there blocking for him. Forget about what I can do. If they don't block for me, I'm not going to pick up yardage. And they do an excellent job of blocking on this return.
And it sets up a 1st and 10 at the 27-yard line for Tennessee. Titans defense, what a roll they have been on. They've given up just 2 touchdowns now in the past 17 quarters. Under 4 minutes left here in the first half. Line of scrimmage is the 27. And this play never gets off cleanly. Flags come down.
What happened on this play, everybody had the right cadence except the center.
Offense, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
Kevin Long.
Keep an eye on the center, Kevin Long. Now everybody's got the cadence, but this guy right there, he's the guy with the ball. He needs to snap it. Watch everybody else move. There they go. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. He's going to go to the sidelines and tell Jeff Fisher, hey, I had the right cadence. They were all wrong. The other 10 guys, they were wrong.
I don't know if that excuse is going to fly, though. If everybody else
not far.
No.
But that's his case, and he's going to stick to it.
On a 1st and 15, back it up to the 22. George Neal. Draw play. Eddie George on On a stop and go up the middle, and George picks up 5. Darius Holland with the tackle for the Browns. Titans have been able to use clock. And the way things are going, 17 points probably will be enough against a Cleveland offense that has been unable to muster much. 20 carries, 74 yards, the 2 touchdown runs for Eddie George, going to his 4th Pro Bowl. Call it a 2nd and 10. Long count for McNair, movement again at the line of scrimmage, and George emerging through a hole. George picks up the first down. If he was able to break the tackle of Todd Franz, that one would have turned into a huge gain. Browns are saying it's against Tennessee. Let's see.
Defense, number 90.
Browns are wrong.
Penalties decline. Result for the play, first down.
And that's the 3rd time that Steve McNair's been able to get the defensive front of the Cleveland Browns to jump off sides. All they have to do is look at the ball, but if he changes his voice inflection at the line of scrimmage, he can get them jumping. A lot of quarterbacks work at it. Some quarterbacks are outstanding at it. Steve McNair is one of them.
McNair 3-0 against Cleveland in his career, but did have the 4 interceptions the last time these 2 teams met back in November. And a 1st and 10 for the Titans. McNair throwing into double coverage, and it's incomplete. He was looking for Derek Mason. It'll be 2nd and 10 from the 38.
Right on the outside, he had Lorenzo Neal wide open. Maybe in the back of his mind, he's thinking after that touchdown reception where he beat that ball all over the place last week.
A little bit of a ricochet, yeah.
Maybe maybe we won't go to Lorenzo right now.
You know, we asked Eddie George if Lorenzo picked up a lot of flack after batting that ball around in the end zone and finally bringing it down. He said he did, but Eddie didn't dish it out. He said it was just too easy for him. So he let Lorenzo off the hook. Draw play. George breaking 2 tackles and spun down. George continues to work. And he works up the middle mostly here today. It's a gain of 9.
What the Tennessee Titans are doing to the Cleveland front and Cleveland defense, they're breaking their will. Right now, they are saying at the line of scrimmage that we own the point of attack. We're dictating to you, and we have a big, strong running back. Once he breaks through the line of scrimmage, he's going to pick up additional yardage, and that's what Eddie George gives you.
Winded down to the 2-minute warning. George told us he likes this kind of weather. I don't know if he was expecting this in particular.
I don't know about the wind. I think the cold he could handle, but it's awful windy down there.
Yeah, you know what? He's a man of his word, though. No long sleeves. And George on the job today. 22 carries, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tennessee in front.
One more gift to buy? The big one? Well, for just $7.
Here in the second quarter from Cleveland. Coming up, the NASDAQ.com halftime report. Jim, Mike, and Jerry will have all the scores and highlights and all the latest playoff news, plus a report from the Indianapolis-Miami game. It's all coming up, the NASDAQ.com halftime report. Braving the elements, these Browns fans, dedicated group. And now a 3rd and 1 for Tennessee from the 47-yard line. Handoff, Eddie George, first down. And a little bit more as George puts the head down and is finally brought down from behind. Eddie George has gone over 100 yards rushing here in the first half with a pickup of 16.
Eddie charged some of the Cleveland Browns defenders a toll for this play.
And a face mask at the end of the play. Carrying the load on the season, and that's a pretty good sign to show you that George has had better performances in the 4th quarter if you break it down. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that Tennessee, nursing leads, will just give the ball to the dependable Eddie George in the 4th.
Plus, they wear the opposition down, and that's also key. And if you pound on them in the first couple of quarters, it takes its effect in the 3rd and 4th quarter.
At Turf Toe this week, and some thought he might not even play in this game. He's playing. He's playing well. George is bottled up by Wally Rayner, first man there, after a short gainer on first down.
Now, what was interesting when we talked with Eddie George, he told us that his injury to his toe really happened in the summer.
He was working out in Columbus, and George felt there was a problem back then, and said the problem is One that comes and goes. He was working on it earlier today, making sure the wrap was just right on that right foot. Now, that's one thing about George and McNair. Both play hurt. And George is brought down quickly. Courtney Brown combining with Marquise Smith to make sure that George doesn't break off another big one.
And for McNair and George, it's all about pride. It's a pride thing. They just don't like to miss.
Timeout taken with 1 minute to play now in the second quarter. And George has gotten his total up to 115 yards rushing on 25 carries. And another reminder that the NASDAQ.com halftime report is coming up. Jim, Mike, and Jerry will have all the scores and highlights. Plus, an update on the playoff picture and a report from the Indianapolis-Miami game, a game that has a lot of bearing on how things are going to sort themselves out in the AFC. Indy go on a run here in the final 2 games, and will Miami fold up for Dave Wanstead?
What's more important, what's the temperature in Miami?
Oh man, don't even talk about it. What about Arizona? Baltimore, Arizona, that's a game in the 70s today.
Oh man, that's incredible. As cold as it is today, it's been cold, but I haven't felt this cold in a while. It's the wind that really gets you when you're on the field. It's like 25 degrees colder than it is in a tunnel.
No, we've been doing games together now 3 years, and this is by far the coldest it's been. We've avoided that one cold game. We had Buffalo in December. You figure we would have caught it somewhere down the line. Not until today. Play action. McNair off the bootleg, looking to throw it. McNair floats in a wobbly pass and incomplete. Yancey Thigpen went airborne to try to catch it. And Todd Franz, along with Corey Fuller, made sure that he didn't.
And Yancey Thigpen had him beat deep on this play. If Steve McNair puts more on this pass, it's a touchdown. Thigpen has to come back and go over the shoulder of Corey Fuller. It's an easy touchdown if he just puts a little more air into this football, but because of the wind, he misjudges the distance. Here's the pass. Watch Yancey Thigpen come back.
On 4th down, the Titans are going to go for it. Would have been a 44-yard field goal attempt, but the wind whipping the way that it is, Jeff Fisher's not sending Aldel Greco on the field. On a 4th and 6, McNair throws it up high to the end zone, and it dives before it gets to Mason. Incomplete.
It's just so hard to complete a pass in this way. Maybe a little dump pass, a little screen, a slant coming across the middle, and you can complete those, but the long passes like that, they're just too difficult to complete. But they did take their shot downfield. Now the Cleveland defense has to respect that they'll throw it downfield. Maybe that'll open up more running lanes for Eddie George.
Tennessee hands it over to Cleveland on downs, unable to convert on a 4th and 6. The Browns have it a 1st and 10 at the 26-yard line. It would have been a 44-yard field goal attempt for Aldel Greco, but why even try it? With a 17-0 lead. Here's Peterson. Loses the football. It's free and picked up by Roger Chenois. Javon Curse knocked it loose. And the clock is moving with 29 seconds now left, first half.
Just a one-on-one slap move over the right tackle, and Javon Curse just goes in and nails the quarterback. Doug Peterson on the play, but this is an area where they wanted to improve. They've forced a lot of fumbles this season. They just haven't been able to commit and recover the fumbles. Last year, they led the NFL on fumble recoveries at 24. This year, they're one of the worst in the NFL. 27 forced fumbles coming into the game, only 8 fumble recoveries.
2nd and 16. Hand off Jamel White up the middle. And Browns fans not happy with a conservative call. What to do in this setting? That's it for the first half. Tennessee with a 17-0 lead on the Browns. We'll send you to Jim Nance at the studio. The NASDAQ.com halftime report coming up after a word from your local station. Monday. Nuke went out and bought this hat just to make sure he was going to be warm for these cold weather games. And, for Tennessee, this really did play into their hand. They have the power running game that Cleveland does not have, and that's one of the reasons why Tennessee leads on the scoreboard.
And that is the main reason. They have a dominant offensive line. What they do is they seal their blocks on the backside. They allow Eddie George to hit the hole. If it's not there, he can cut back. But I think the other key, quarterback play. When you've got a Steve McNair quarterback, that's a huge factor in a game like this.
Titans realize how important these games are the rest of the way. They are still still annoyed at the fact that they did not win the division last year, that Jacksonville ended up the division winner, and they had to go on the road before they went to the Super Bowl. They did have that one win at home against Buffalo. And talking to Eddie George in particular, he's a leader on this team, and George is the kind of guy that likes this style of play. He's a throwback guy, and he has flourished here today.
And absolutely. And if you look at Eddie George, particularly on this play, he just powers into the end zone, and he's used to this type of game. He went to college at Ohio State. He knows playing cold weather. This is the type of game setting that he loves. And here he just barrels into the end zone, spins back in. You're not going to bring him down with an arm tackle. And it's players like that that you have to have in games like this. When I played in the 80s with John Riggins, big physical running back. When you get to the playoffs, you have to have a physical running game.
Cleveland Browns were able to break out of their offensive doldrums a little bit last week. It was still a loss to Philadelphia. They've dropped 11 of their last 12. But offensively here, that chicanery is just not going to work. A, Tennessee is ready for it. And B, because of the snowy conditions, cold weather, you just can't do those sorts of things and get out of your normal style of offense. Stick a running back in the backfield under center. It's not working.
No, you can't. And particularly a team like the Tennessee Titans, that they're battle tested. They've been there. They're in the Super Bowl last year. You're not going to fool them. It's not going to be a trick thing. Jeff Fisher said, yes, we prepared for it. We don't expect to see a lot of it. But if we do happen to see it, we're going to put pressure on whoever is in the backfield receiving the football.
Well, the weather has been fairly consistent. It has gotten colder. Degrees temperature, wind chill at 18 below, and the wind has been gusting above 30 miles an hour. Forecast calls for more snow. Now we've been told that it is expected to continue into the early evening, and they're thinking about an accumulation of about 2 to 3 inches.
Well, and before I talked about, well, this is football weather. Well, it's not really football weather with a wind chill of minus 18. That's like Green Bay, Cleveland, and Buffalo. That's it. No place else it's going to be that cold. But you have to perform in it. You have to become conducive to the environment, to the outdoor environment. That's why I love open-air stadiums. You know, teams that prepare in this, they know how to play in tough situations, particularly at the end of the season and in the playoffs.
And the Browns fans, those who did not go inside to get warm during halftime, remaining here as the Titans lead it 17-0. Derek Mason. Mason breaks a tackle as it is driven down out near midfield, the 45 by Lewis Sanders. That's a 34-yard return for Mason. And the halftime numbers, Tennessee in front 17-0, rushing yards, all Eddie George, total yards, mostly Eddie George, and the 2 turnovers that did lead to points for Tennessee. Also another mention on Derek Mason. That has put him #1 all-time in all-purpose yardage, passing Lionel Little Train James. He came in 60 yards shy. He has topped that mark. What a year it's been for Mason. On a 1st and 10, draw play. Eddie George, it's no secret what Tennessee is doing, and George picks up chunks of yardage, a gain of 8 up the middle.
He's just relentless at the point of attack. But for Derek Mason, this is quite an honor. When we spoke with him, he said, yeah, it is important. You know, there are a lot of people that are counting on him. The return teams that him and the players around him, for him to step it up to the wide receiver position also, that's just attributable.
Hey, we told him the only thing left now is to get a nickname. You pass Lionel Little Train James. If we don't come up with something here, somewhere down the line, Derek Mason has to get himself a nickname now, the all-purpose yardage leader.
Derek the Dominator.
You like that?
I like that.
You like alliteration. That's your thing. Eddie George trying that left side, that all-pro left side for a gain of 3, and they'll move the chains as the Titans come out doing exactly what we expected them to do here in the second half, running the football with Eddie George, the durable one.
And that's what happens when you have a dominant running team and a good offensive line. You send Pro Bowlers in pairs to the Pro Bowl. On the left side, Brad Hopkins, Bruce Matthews, they deserve to go. They've done an outstanding job all season, but it happens in pairs. When I played for the Redskins in the 80s, it was Grimm and Jacoby. Then I finally snuck in there about 8 years later, but usually they go in pairs. You get a dominant tackle, dominant guard.
1st and 10 at the Cleveland 44. Sanders, the motion man. Off the bootleg, McNair sets his feet and throws incomplete. He was looking for Aaron Kinney, the rookie tight end out of Florida. And McNair was spilled out on the play. Keith McKenzie.
And McNair's just having fun out there. It's like, you know, go out there, roll, fall down, slide 10 or 12 yards. Hey, no big deal. See McNair gets hit from the blind side right here at the end of the play by Keith McKenzie. And here it is. He's safe.
And a 2nd and 10. His team is safe right now in front 17-0. Clock is stopped, just underway here in the second half. Sanders again in motion. And McNair, draw play. George, driven back. Read well by Marquis Smith. And a loss of 3 on the play.
These are the type of plays what the Cleveland defense wanted to do from play 1. Put the 8th man in the box, your strong safety, and Marquis Smith. Get penetration in the backfield and try to make a play. Here he does exactly. No one blocks him on the play. Gets penetration in the backfield and makes the tackle in the backfield.
You know, we talked a lot about the respect factor for Tennessee, that a lot of people around the league aren't oohing and eyeing over what Tennessee has done this year after going to the Super Bowl last year and now with a chance to move to 12-3. Eddie George told us, hey, we don't care. We don't care what everybody around the league thinks of us. We know that we're good, and we know that we can go on another run. Here's George into a crowd. On a 3rd and 13, George unable to pick up the yardage necessary. Stalin Colliday, first man there, and it's a gain of 1 for George. Tennessee will punt.
Going back to what Eddie George told us, he said, we relish being, or Steve McNair told us, we relish being in that position. We're the underdog. People don't expect us to be there. We don't really sneak up on people, but when we go out and play, our playing does the talking for us.
Last year, they went to the Super Bowl as a wild card team. This year, they as the number 1 seed in the AFC. Lamar Chapman is waiting, standing at his own 10. And Craig Hentrick, averaging over 41 yards per punt this season. Hentrick leans into this one, end over end, and returnable. Chapman with a fair catch. He is still spooked over what happened earlier today with a fumble. He had a lot of room in front of him. Instead, it's the fair catch. Early 3rd quarter, and Tennessee leads Cleveland 17-0. 1st and 10 for the Browns from their own 13-yard line. Cleveland in their base offense with Prentice and Edwards in the backfield. Long count for Peterson and a handoff. Travis Prentice straight up the gut, and Prentice able to use that block from Everett Lindsay to pick up 7. Well, Bruce Matthews passed his brother Clay on the all-time list. Played for this effort here today, and earlier Clay was in attendance as an honorary co-captain for the Browns. Look at that, no jacket for Clay Matthews.
Yeah, that's tough. So look at all the little guys with their thermals and long sleeves, and there's Bruce out there, no sleeves. His brother didn't have a jacket on. That's toughness.
The durability in that family is just simply amazing. Prentice tried to squeeze through a hole, and no gain on the play. Blaine Bishop with a stop. Well, we had to go to the archives. Houston Oilers against the LA Raiders, 1983. And Bruce Matthews getting the start for the Oilers. Little did everybody know that he would turn out to be one of the greatest Iron Men that the NFL has ever seen.
You know what's amazing? That was my 3rd year in the NFL, and I played 13 years. And he's still playing at such a high level that another Pro Bowl this year is 13.
Is 13. Peterson now on a 3rd and 2. Peterson incomplete. Kevin Johnson, the intended target, and Samari Rolle, the Pro Bowler, had the coverage.
That's probably one of the reasons why they haven't been throwing to Kevin Johnson is the Pro Bowler Samari Rolle has had an outstanding season. He goes on the best wide receiver one-on-one of the opposition, and he's always close by, but here's a pass. Kevin Johnson, both hands on it. He should have that reception. He had beaten Samari Rolle on that route. That should be a reception for the Cleveland Browns.
Again for Tennessee, 2 returners are waiting. Thigpen and Mason. Gardocki, a spiral. Mason lets it bounce, and Cleveland able to touch it up at the 34. Tennessee with the football in the lead in the 3rd quarter.
CBS is sponsored by First Union, your guide to the financial world. K Jewelers. This holiday season, shop K Jewelers. Every kiss with K. And by Cellular One. When you need a cell phone, Cellular One is here.
Tennessee looking for its first division title since 1993. That's when they were the Houston Oilers, and right now they have a 17-point cushion on the Cleveland Browns. 10:22 to play in the third quarter.
Now, you know what's interesting? We were talking with Jeff Fisher. He told us that the most important thing for he and his team is to win a division. You would think after going to the Super Bowl and losing it on the final play last year, then it would be to get back to the Super Bowl and win the game.
Well, maybe the most important thing for these guys is to get the brain checked.
Yeah, get some clothes on.
Man, now if that is an effort just to get on television,
it worked.
It does, because that's ridiculous. First and 10 for Tennessee at the 35-yard line. And the Titans with a 17-0 lead. Officials huddling, just trying to get some body heat. Stay warm.
You know what? Going back to Jeff Fisher for a second. Here's a coach that nobody ever talks about, Coach of the Year. They went the long overland route last year to get to the Super Bowl on the road as a wild card team, 13-3. And then they come back this year, they're going to be 12-3 at the end of the day. And the three losses in the games they lost by 3 points, 1 point, and 3 points. So hey, they're one of the best teams in the NFL.
I think a lot of it with Coach of the Year has to do with turning a team around oftentimes, and that's what voters look at Jim Haslett. You're right, but Jeff Fisher certainly deserves the attention as they fix the flag and chain, and a chance to tell you about what's coming up tonight on CBS. If you saw a reindeer fly with your own eyes, would you believe? CBS invites you to share in a secret that you'll never forget. Richard Thomas and Beau Bridges star in The Christmas Secret. That's tonight on CBS. And we're ready to resume play. First and 10 at the 35 for Tennessee. Titans used up a lot of clock in that first half running the football, trying to do the same here in the second half. Their second possession of the third quarter. And a double tight end set. Handoff, Eddie George. And George is stopped after a gain of 3. Browns converging on George defensively. Eddie George going to have to take a look at what his career high in carries has been in a game, because he already has more than 30 with 126 yards. We have 9:56 to play in the third.
You've got a thoroughbred, you saddle him up. And Eddie George is their thoroughbred. If he gets 45 carries, I wouldn't be surprised. I think he'll be in the game until the beginning of the fourth quarter, and if Tennessee gets another score, that's when he'll pull him out. But at this point in the game, you've got your first bunch of them.
On a 2nd and 7, play action, McNair rolling out and makes the connection underneath. Frank Wycheck brings it in. Is spun down after a gain of 4 by Percy Ellsworth. It'll set up 3rd and 3.
For Frank Wycheck, you talk about he's a tight end. Well, he's not really a tight end. He's kind of an H-back. And an H-back is really a cross, a hybrid between a tight end that's not big enough to be a big physical guy like Aaron Kenny, the tight end on this team, and a fullback, but he does it all for them. He is a good blocker, not exceptional, but what he does great, he catches the football. He makes things happen, and he's always at the top 2 or 3 receivers in the league at the tight end position.
On a 3rd and 3, and once again movement from Cleveland, right side of that defensive line, left side of the offensive line, Hopkins and McKenzie.
Ball start, offense, number 72, 5-yard penalty, remains 3rd down.
This time Tennessee gets tagged.
That's the Pro Bowler Brad Hopkins, his first Pro Bowl this season. Right there, keep an eye on him next to Bruce Matthews, just a little bit early. And that's just a concentration problem. It's not very loud. This isn't a sold-out stadium. You have to listen to your quarterback.
We'll make it 3rd and 8 for Tennessee. Under 9 minutes left now in the third. Shotgun formation for McNair. Shovel pass inside to Wycheck, and he is spun down. Wycheck picks up a few. Marty Moore and Wally Rayner collaborate to make that stop, and Tennessee will punt again.
Look at this Cleveland Browns defense. Really the only marquee name that I think would be Courtney Brown, the rookie out of Penn State. He's had a decent season, makes the tackle on the play, but Courtney Brown doesn't get a lot of sacks. 4.5 sacks this year, but what he does do is he hustles. He's always around the ball. He's always there to make plays.
In this driving snowstorm, Hentrich gets it off. Lamar Chapman lets it bounce. And it rolls down at the 29-yard line. Offense need to get into gear. They're down 17-0 in the third. 17-0, Tennessee leading Cleveland. Workers here have graduated to the big shovel. Started with just the broom and now just a myriad of tools to try to get the snow out of the field.
You get the push broom and the sweeper and the shovel. They've got everything out there with them.
They are the unsung heroes here today, Mr. May. On a 1st and 10 from the 29, Peterson's pass is batted down at the line of scrimmage by Javon Curse. Cleveland's offense with just 1 first down here today after coming up with 25 last week against Philadelphia. And Chris Palmer.
They just can't get anything going offensively on the ground, in the air. This team just needs a spark. And for Chris Palmer, here's a guy that throughout his career he's been able to put together some offenses and really strike fast and put a lot of points on the board. It's got to be frustrating for him.
Yeah, began his NFL coaching career with the Houston Oilers as a wide receivers coach. Little flare out to Jamel White. And White will come up short of a first down as Jason Fisk brings him down, a gain of 7. Palmer has a 5-year contract. So the question really becomes, with Al Lerner and Carmen Policy, hierarchy here with the Cleveland Browns, as they evaluate the coaching staff and the head coach in particular over the next few weeks, whether or not they decide to bring Chris Palmer back. I don't know how many coaches could step into this situation and lead this team to 8, 9 wins. That was the expectation level this year as Kevin Johnson catches the pass from Peterson. And it's short of a first down. Vince Lombardi could have coached this team with 14 guys on the injured list. Starting quarterback, backup quarterback, starting running, starting wide receiver going down. And this team might have just 3 wins.
Absolutely, and here's the key. They did make improvements on this team last year. The first 3 games, they were 2-1. They didn't get respect from a lot of teams in the league. Then the injuries started to mount up on this football team. When you're a team that you're very thin at every position and you don't have backups and you don't have a lot of marquee players, and then your best player, Tim Couch, goes down, it's difficult to win under those circumstances. And a lot of fingers are pointing at Chris Palmer. Hey, Carmen Policy, Al Lerner, you guys have to sign the checks and bring in some marquee free agents here. There aren't a lot of marquee free agents on this roster.
Well, the depth was tested here in Cleveland, and you see the Browns come up just about a yard short. Browns fans want this team to go for it, and Chris Palmer is listening. Now, Palmer told us once Tim Couch went down, he knew that was it. He knew this team was not going to be able to recover to the point where they were going to be a competitive team week in and week out. Peter just didn't know the offense. He was new to the system. He doesn't have the ability of a Tim Couch. Let's face it, Doug Peterson is a backup quarterback.
He doesn't. What made the problem even worse is your backup, Ty Detmer, goes down in the preseason. So basically you're going from your first quarterback to a guy that you just picked up off the street.
On a 4th and 1, Edwards and Prentice are in the backfield. Palmer deciding to go for it on 4th down. Long count by Peterson. Motion man is Patton. Handoff. Prentice looking for an opening, and it's not there. Tennessee's defense has risen to the occasion with Randall Godfrey. What a week he had against Cincinnati, against Corey Dillon in particular, last week.
And they go with their solid defense where they cover the center and both guards, and it frees up the middle linebacker, Randall Godfrey, right here on the outside. But great penetration by Blaine Bishop to make the running back take a wide course, but that's the pressure that this defense can put on. Stack them up on the inside, you get a safety coming to fill, and you get your middle linebacker coming to fill. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize on this Tennessee team, and I've said it before, they're probably the best tackling football team in the NFL. They don't miss tackles.
It's funny, you just don't think of them, though, when you talk about elite defenses. They're not one of the first teams that come to mind, even though they're ranked number 2 in the NFL. Play action. McNair under pressure, and McNair is devoured. Tyrone Rogers there to make sure he went down, and Wally Rayner applied that pressure up the middle, a loss of 7.
Now that's a play that they need to use a lot more. Blitzing the middle linebacker, Wally Rayner. Only has 1 sack this season, leads the team in tackles, coming into this game with 145, but here it's just man-on-man. He runs through, Lorenzo Neal tries to block him, he just jumps over him, puts pressure on quarterback Steve McNair, and finishes him off at the end of the play.
But when you think of elite defense, what's the first team that comes to mind in the NFL this year?
Tampa, Baltimore.
Yep. New Orleans has gotten a lot of headlines. And Tennessee is not one of those first teams mentioned. They should be the way they've played this year. Eddie George hurdling over a tackler. But a modest gain of 4 on 2nd and 16. It'll be 3rd and long.
And one of the key people on this defense, their coach, Greg Williams. He's not a guy that a lot of people say, hey, let's talk to him for a head coaching position. It's just one of those things that just doesn't happen in the NFL, and he's one of the guys that should be on the short list.
Defensive numbers, they were good last year, but what they have done this year, pretty outstanding. Oh, yeah. Coach Williams in charge of this Tennessee defense, and now the Tennessee offense is facing a 3rd and 13 from the Cleveland 41. Shotgun. McNair throwing. And caught. Chris Sanders in traffic, but not enough for a first down. Comes up a couple of yards shy. An 11-yard pickup.
That was a nice concentration on the outside by Chris Sanders. This ball should be picked off. Right there, at least knocked down.
McCutcheon had an opportunity.
Tennessee will go for it again. You know, this is no question. And in this area, too long of a field goal attempt for Al Del Greco to try, particularly in cold weather like this.
Well, a fan has made his way onto the field, and now a police officer has as well. And he's not going to put up much of a tussle.
And for me to even comment on it, that's so ridiculous for anybody to run out on that field.
That's just not smart. I mean, yeah, because you've got a bunch of 300-pound men wearing helmets and pads.
I think Mike Curtis did it best.
Yeah.
For the Baltimore Colts years ago when a fan ran out on the field and he just clocked.
You get pummeled. On 4th and 3. In motion, Thigpen. McNair, play action. Throwing side, Lorenzo Neal backpedaling. And he's forced out of bounds, short of a first down. Marty Moore there to make sure. And Cleveland will take over. Everything's happening in this area of the field over about a 15-yard period. It's 17-0 Tennessee.
Is sponsored by Volkswagen. On the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers. And by Heineken. It's all about the beer. Heineken.
Holiday season here in Cleveland, Ohio. The Browns are trailing Tennessee 17-0. 4:12 mark, 3rd quarter. Browns have the football, 1st and 10 at their own 30. Peterson floats one and complete to the sideline, and Patton short of a first down by a couple. And David Patton, the former to add to his numbers this year. And Doug Peterson so far today, 6 of 12 throwing the football, 34 yards. A winter wonderland in Cleveland. We expected some snow. I don't think we expected this much. It's been continuous throughout the game. On the handoff for Prentice. And a first down for Cleveland. Log on to NFL.com. Vote for what you think were the greatest playoff games of all time. It's all there for you at NFL.com.
Move the chains for the Browns.
Javon Kearse just walked gingerly to the sideline. He appears to be okay, and he's replaced on that defensive line. And now it's Kearse being talked to on the sideline, but he's all right. Peterson on a 1st and 10 from over the middle. The connection made to Travis Prentice. And Randall Godfrey brings him down after a gain of 5 through the air. NFL Today update. Let's go to New York right now and check in with Jim Nance.
Well, the Broncos have won 6 straight, but they trail now in the 3rd quarter at Arrowhead. Rookie Frank Morrow scores from 2 yards out. Chiefs by 3, mid-3rd. Let's go back to you.
What a golden opportunity for the Denver Broncos, and not taking advantage of it. Peterson into double coverage. It's incomplete. David Patton, the intended receiver. Denard Walker was there, stride for stride.
Great position by Denard Walker. Here it is. It's just a one-on-one. It's a straight treat pattern down the field of play by David Patton. Trying to run out the defender, but excellent coverage and body presence by Denard Walker. For David Patton, he's probably one of the better finds for the Cleveland Browns in free agency. 3 years with the New York Giants. 33 total receptions. This year with the Cleveland Browns, 37.
Yeah, but there might be a veteran receiver on the market next year with a San Francisco connection. We'll talk about that in a moment. Peterson, a flare, and a first down to Prentice. Crossing midfield for a gain of 8. Now, who is that player I'm alluding to? Well, Jerry Rice.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Jerry Rice will not be back with the San Francisco 49ers next year. You have a young receiving corps. Kevin Johnson, second year. Darren Chiaverini, second year. The rookies they have, Dennis Northcutt. You don't have that older guy, that mature wide receiver.
Number 45.
To lead.
Decline. The result of the play, first down.
First down, Cleveland.
To lead and to guide you, and you need that veteran presence, a guy that's been to Super Bowls, that have been to Pro Bowls, and has a tremendous work ethic, and his connection with the people in the front office here.
Carmen Policy, Dwight Clark, former 49ers. You know, Jerry's won his Super Bowl ring, so if he's looking for a paycheck, you want a chance to be in the starting lineup again. That might be most important to him, just to get playing time. Peterson, pocket is collapsing. Peterson on the move. Peterson on a sprint out to the sideline. And another first down for Cleveland. 16-yard scamper for Doug Peterson.
The pocket breaks down, the pass protection breaks down. Tremendous coverage by the defensive secondary of the Tennessee Titans. But what's most impressive about this play, Doug Peterson running away from Randall Godfrey. Randall Godfrey has a shot at him, the angle right here. He just turns it on and runs away from him and picks up the first down.
That is their best play from scrimmage, yardage-wise, here today. Fourth first down for the Browns and a 1st and 10 at the Tennessee 32. 17-0, Titans leading it, a minute and a half to play in the third. Give for Prentice. He's bottled up quickly as Bishop got him down low, a gain of 2.
Now you look at some of the young players on this Cleveland Brown roster. Not a lot of big names, not a lot of household names. But they're players that you can build on, that you can build the future on. And talking to Chris Palmer, those are the little victories.
Yeah.
Some of those things where players come and play well. And you look at a Courtney Brown. Of course, he's going to be a great player in the NFL. First pick in the NFL draft. But some of the other players, like a Travis Prentice, Kevin Johnson, some of these young players that have really stepped up and progressed.
2nd and 8 for Cleveland. Peterson wants to pass it. Throwing to the end zone. Knocked away. David Patton, the intended target. Walker and Bishop were draped all over it.
And the key on this play is at the end of the play. Doug Peterson did not look off the the strong safety and Blaine Bishop, and he's able to recover. Here he is. He makes his break. The ball's thrown. Now it's run it down. Get in close to the play. But a tremendous play over the shoulder by Denard Walker.
Denard Walker with Samari Rolle having a Pro Bowl season. Some have forgotten about Walker. He's been very good in his 4th year out of LSU, former 3rd-round pick.
And he's getting a lot of opportunities because teams are throwing away from Samari Rolle.
Play clock is winding down on a 3rd and 8. Peterson, a quick throw, and Shea was turned around the wrong way. Incomplete. That's a timing issue. And Shea was open for a moment. 48 seconds now left in the third, and Cleveland is going for it again. No reason to even think about attempting a field goal.
Not at this stage of the game. And for the Cleveland Browns, this is a team that when you look at them, obviously with their record, you're not impressed with them. You look at their offense, they've experimented with a few things, some trick plays. You have to take your hat off to Chris Palmer for at least attempting it for it. Going on first downs, going with the empty backfield, putting running backs, wide receivers at the quarterback position just to try to motivate your team.
Peterson steps up and gets clobbered. Joe Salavea, his 4th sack of the season. And the Browns give it up on downs.
And Joe Salavea, the backup defensive tackle. The Tennessee Titans are so impressive because they're so deep on both sides of the ball.
Tennessee with a 17-0 lead, and it appears they'll be cruising in for their 12th win of the year. Browns fans sticking it out under tough conditions here in Cleveland. 17-0, Tennessee leading the Browns. Final moments now of the third quarter. Titans have a 1st and 10 at their own 37-yard line. And the pitch to Eddie George. Gets stacked up after he picks up 3. Working that left side of the offensive line for Tennessee. And the clock is rolling. 30 seconds now left in the third.
Eddie George slow to get up.
Well, that is the one thing that Tennessee cannot deal with right now. He is grabbing at that left leg, it appears. It's not the leg.
And for Eddie George at this point in the game, obviously, the first question you may ask as a Titan fan, why is he in at this point in the game? Well, you want to keep your starters sharp. Eddie George probably will not see much action in the fourth quarter in this game. Neither will Steve McNair. It'll be similar to last week against the Cincinnati Bengals, where both were pulled out of the game about halfway through the fourth quarter.
Well, McNair was one of the players that told us they wanted to have a good taste in their mouths offensively heading into the postseason. They got that last week against Cincinnati. Really, the conditions the way that they are, you haven't been able to experience that here today, but we see a look at Eddie George going down awkwardly.
Just fell on his leg in a weird angle, then all the bodies on top of him.
And the medical staff is still looking at Eddie George. We're going to try to get him up, and that's a good sign. He's going to be able to walk off on his own. And there's George.
What a workhorse.
Yep. 32 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns, his career high 36 carries, and both happened this season.
Look at that difference.
And that will probably be it for Eddie George. You'd have to believe that now Rodney Thomas will get an opportunity in the backfield. And not a bad day for 3 quarters worth of work.
He earned it. He's a huge part of this offense. There are only a few offenses in the NFL that has a big running back like Eddie George.
End of the third, Tennessee 17, nothing. We're coming back to Cleveland Brown Stadium after this word from your local station. The fourth quarter is next on CBS. And Eagle Mark May with you from Cleveland, Ohio. Tennessee leading the Browns 17-0. Titans trying to move one step closer to wrapping up the #1 seed in the AFC. 2nd and 7. George is now on the sideline, replaced by Rodney Thomas. Fake the handoff. McNair throwing deep. One-on-one coverage. Intercepted by Fuller. Chris Sanders, the intended receiver, and now Fuller is trying to run with the football. And he is brought down at the 42. So without George on the field, Titans decide to throw one up in the air, and Cleveland has itself a turnover.
And this is a nice job of coverage by Corey Fuller. It's tough to throw the ball deep in this wind. He has the inside position and just plays the ball. Chris Sanders, thing about it, that's a great play by the cornerback Corey Fuller, and then has the presence of mind to get up and get positive yards out of it on the return.
Now Fuller with his 3rd interception of the season. Remember, he played free safety last year for Cleveland and back at cornerback this season.
Hi, did you see who made the tackle on this play? The oldest guy on the football field, possibly in the stadium, Bruce Matthews. At the end of this play, old number 74 gets over there and makes the play.
Now a 1st and 10 for Cleveland, just shy of the 40-yard line. Wonder if Tennessee wants to look at this thing to see whether or not Fuller was down. And there is a stoppage with just 15 seconds gone by here in the 4th.
Tennessee is challenging the ruling on the field that the interception, the player was not down by contact.
Yeah, that's one of those things, if you're a viewer at home, you say, well, why? What does it matter in a game like this? A, it's 17-0. B, you still go about your business, because who knows if you're going to face a situation like this down the line.
And see, it's probably the right call because he falls on Chris Sanders' leg. Right there.
Well, we'll see if they decide that that is considered contact. Sanders was actually touched up by Percy Ellsworth, but Sanders didn't have the football. So a coach's challenge, early moments of the 4th quarter. Fuller will have an interception one way or the other. The question becomes now, does he get credit for the run back?
Right foot right there.
I don't even know if you consider that a tackle. I mean, Sanders didn't make the attempt to tackle him. There was contact. But I think that becomes a judgment call for Tony Corrente as he takes another look at this one. Interception for Corey Fuller. You know, Fuller was one of the guys, Mark, that we talked to, and there has been that scuttlebutt around Cleveland that Chris Palmer worked too hard in training camp. And Fuller said, hey, I went to Florida State. I'm used to tough workouts. That's nothing new to me. I just harken back to my college years. But that has been a criticism out there of Palmer. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are you have a lot of young players. This is an expansion team in its second year. You're going to have a lot of first and second year players on this roster. You have to teach them what the NFL is about. Some of the older veterans, of course, they may complain because they're in different situations with different franchises and didn't practice hard. But this team did. Hey, they got a little tired, got beaten up during the season, but you've got to take your licks.
During the play, the Cleveland player intercepted the ball, foul into the leg of a Tennessee player. The ball will be placed at the 23-yard line, first down.
Contact is contact.
Yep, 17-yard differential from the 23 to the 40. And they will back it up as we take a look.
Keep an eye on the right foot of Chris Sanders. He's got to go down, and he doesn't even have any idea what's going on. Right there.
So Sanders given credit for a tackle, and he fell into it.
He'll be strutting in the locker room. I made that tackle.
First and 10 at the 23. Browns are getting shut out. They have not been in the red zone here today. Cincinnati last week against the Tennessee defense, one trip to the red zone. And a first and 10 for Peterson. Fires it over the middle and incomplete. Flag down. Samari Rolle will probably get collared with the personal foul. Kevin Johnson, the intended receiver. Whether he came over the back trying to make a play.
Sometimes you say you're one step early. Well, Samari Rolle was about 3 steps early on this play.
Pass. Ooh, offsetting. Wow. Now the Browns thinking that they were going to pick up some yardage off the penalty. Think again.
Pass interference, defense number 21. Illegal formation, number 82, lined up in the backfield, offense. These penalties offset, replay, first down.
When things go bad for a team the entire season, it continues to go bad. This team, the Cleveland Browns, just can't catch a break.
David Patton lined up in the backfield illegally. And now another first and 10 for Cleveland at the 23. Just over a minute gone by here in the fourth quarter. Peterson in the pocket, rolling out, throwing, incomplete, looking for Jamel White. From John Thornton up the middle, the starting defensive left tackle. And a bunch of those players on this Tennessee defense, guys that you wouldn't call big names, but have gotten the job done this year. Jason Fisk, Thornton, Eddie Robinson. Greg Faber, certainly not a big name, but has done admirable work at the linebacking position. Randall Godfrey picking up where he left off with the Dallas Cowboys last year when he led them in tackles. He's leading Tennessee in tackles. And that pass almost intercepted by Rolle. Comes in with 7 picks on the season. Would have been number 8 for Rolle and may have been 6 down the sideline.
This is just a poorly thrown pass by quarterback Doug Peterson. It's behind his receiver. The receiver breaks to the inside. David Patton, the ball's thrown behind him. But Samari Rolle was thinking 6 on that one.
Now a third and 10. Cleveland looking to throw it, so the clock hasn't been moving much. And they'll break the huddle at the 23. Browns had 418 yards of offense last week, by far their best output of the season, and in fact their best output since they re-entered the NFL. Peterson takes a timeout. We'll break away, come back to Cleveland. Tennessee leading it 17-0. Tennessee with a 17-0 advantage over the Cleveland Browns. 14:42 to play in the fourth quarter. On a snowy day in Cleveland, Ohio, bad weather throughout the Midwest. Not only the snow, the winds have been whipping throughout the day and changing direction throughout the afternoon as well. Peterson able to get rid of it and dropped by Shea. Would have been a first down for the rookie out of Michigan.
And that's what happens when you have rookie players Young players in the NFL, the weather's bad, you get the route you want, you run a great route, you get wide open, the quarterback gets you the ball in the middle of the field, you're supposed to catch it, not bobble. And I said it before, when things go bad for a team, they continue to go bad. And the Cleveland Browns, with so many young players, and a lot of the fingers are pointing at Chris Palmer, and I just think it's a major mistake.
Chris Gardocki will punt it. Derek Mason, now the all-time single-season leader in all-purpose yardage. Mason handles the floater, trying to cut it back, and Mason actually loses yardage on the play. Chris Floyd, first man there on special teams. Titans get the football back. They've got the lead.
Introducing the Acura MDX, taking the SUV to a place it's never been before.
Mom, Dad, all I want for the holidays is a computer. Hold on, Dad. It's only $849. For all this, a Dell Dimension speakers monitor, 1-year MSN internet access, an Intel Pentium 3 processor, which is awesome, and Dell will even throw in your choice of a free printer, free scanner.
Is sponsored by Staples. Staples has everything you need for your business at guaranteed low prices. Sprint PCS, the clear alternative to cellular. And by Dell.
Lights are on at Cleveland Browns Stadium, where the Titans lead the Browns 17-0, and amazingly, Eddie George has returned. The injury to a highly sensitive area, but he's back. First and 10 at the 41. And George gets the carry up the middle. George hit hard as he way ahead. Percy Ellsworth and Marquise Smith combining. Eddie George has earned his paycheck today. Earlier, just making sure the foot was okay, that turf toe that was bothering him this week. In a driving snowstorm, you get the grass, you get the snow combined, it ends up on your helmet. Your name tag is falling off the back of your jersey. They sew that up.
Stitch back up.
And the injury that we just talked about. Ball at midfield now on a 2nd and 2. Play action. Here's McNair. A little bit of time. Able to dump it off. Aaron Kinney. And a first down for Tennessee. Down to the 35-yard line of Cleveland. Let's go to New York right now, get an NFL update with Jim Nance.
Ian and Mark, thank you. New England and Buffalo, the game's first touchdown. It's Flutie to Shelvin Jackson, set up by a Flutie 32-yard scramble. The snow's a-blowing in Buffalo, and the Bills lead by 7. Let's go back to Ian and Mark.
Well, the report, Jim, that Rob Johnson left that game with a concussion, and lo and behold, there's Doug Flutie again working some magic.
It's like a bad penny. He keeps turning up.
Yep. First and 10 now at the 35 of Cleveland. On the toss, Eddie George. George breaks a tackle. Eddie George to the clear. He's got running room. George cuts it. And he's in. Touchdown, Tennessee. A huge day for Eddie George running the football. His 3rd touchdown of the day. Both McKenzie and Ellsworth missed tackles. And the Tennessee Titans are on their way to improving to 12-3.
What great blocking. Zone blocking on the left side of the line of scrimmage by Zach Pillar, replacing Bruce Matthews, and Brad Hopkins, a first-time Pro Bowler. Then Eddie George just turns it on, makes a miss. This is like Sandlot football when you were a kid. The snow's out there, put a little... People fall on the ground, they slip and slide, you run through them, you run around them, you get into the end zone.
And they're there with the big jacket for George to wrap him up. Basically, they're the only guys that wrapped him up today, because the Browns' defensive players haven't been able to do so. Extra point from Del Greco, and Tennessee enjoying a 24-0 lead. An explosion by George in Cleveland. At 1,426 yards rushing on the season, including his 3rd rushing touchdown of the day. 34 carries, 176 yards, averaging over 5 yards per pop in the 3 scores that we mentioned. And now Tennessee will kick it off. Hendrick. Up in the air for Jamel White. Middle of the field. White looking to veer, and he cannot. He's brought down to the 25 by Well, last week against Cincinnati, George got the 3 touchdowns, but he did it in a different manner. Yes, he had the 1 rushing touchdown.
Plus it was warm there.
Yeah, it was. We were there. A lot warmer than this.
But 6 touchdowns in 2 weeks, and he does it through the air. The great play action fake by Steve McNair, dumps it over the top. Great reception by Eddie George, pulling it down and scoring.
And one more for your pleasure. McNair on a BB to George. 3 touchdowns, 6 in the last 2 weeks. And George now has 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. Big year for George, going to the Pro Bowl. 24-0 Tennessee. Peterson throwing it up top, juggled and knocked away at the last moment. David Patton the target, and Denard Walker again with the coverage.
And it seems that both cornerbacks, Samari Rolle and Denard Walker, they're having their way with the wide receivers of the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't matter where they throw it. He's not even looking at the ball. He's looking at the receiver and playing the receiver and just sticking his hands up there and swatting the ball. This is a great play. He's got leverage on the inside, and he turns when the receiver turns.
Now a 2nd and 10 for Cleveland. Browns have not hit 100 yards of total offense. 80 yards total. Here's Peterson. Slings it and caught by Patton. He is dumped past the marker. Should be a first down. Blaine Bishop with a tackle.
And the key to this offense, when Doug Peterson goes back to throw, anything over 5 yards, he's looking for David Patton. He's not even looking anywhere else.
Well, that one covered 12 yards, and now the Browns have 92 yards of total offense, and they've also picked up their 5th first down. 1st and 10 at the 38. Prentice in the backfield with Edwards, and Prentice will get the carry. Circling, getting to the end, and running out of bounds. Prentice, his longest gain of the season is just 17 yards, and yeah, this was not the way it was supposed to be for the Cleveland Browns in the backfield. They signed Eric Rhett thinking that the veteran was going to put up a 1,000-yard rushing season, and Rhett was on his way. Put up decent enough numbers throughout the first 4 or 5 weeks. Prentice is then forced into action. A rookie out of Miami, Ohio, 3rd-round pick. And I think the Browns now are thinking they have to go out and get themselves another running back.
They do, and they really need a marquee running back this time.
Little slingshot to the outside, and there's Kevin Johnson getting involved. Prentice has done a good job getting touchdowns. He's got 7 of them rushing. That's 2 shy of the Browns' rookie record set by Jim Brown. All-time numbers, Prentice, he was dominant. But that was at Miami of Ohio. This is Cleveland, Ohio.
And it's a big step up from Miami of Ohio to the NFL. But he's quick job. He's not the breakaway threat that the Cleveland Browns would like. And he's not going to get you that 1,000 yards in the season, of course, unless you give him the ball 400 times.
On a 3rd and 3, Peterson knocked away. Blaine Bishop was turned around, and now he's jawing with Bobby Brown. Brown has nothing to say.
He's just walking away saying forget it. And you look at the young wide receivers against the experience of the defensive secondary of the Tennessee Titans. Blaine Bishop in his 8th year, Marcus Robertson in his 10th year. And you look at the corners, they've got tremendous corners, but right here he just turns, just rips it out of it.
That's having instincts because he didn't see the football.
Then he's got to talk a little bit after.
Chris Gardocki, busy afternoon for him, his 7th punt. Over 100 on the season. This is 108. And it sends Mason backpedaling. Mason, little juke move, and he's brought down as he crosses the 20-yard line and up ahead to the 20 by Lamar Chapman. Now coming up Wednesday on CBS, and coming up right now, another fight.
These 2 teams just don't like one another.
A lot of it stemming from what Frank Wycheck had to say the last time these 2 teams met. And maybe some of these players need a bodyguard, because that's what we're talking about now. Wednesday on CBS. Academy Award winner and close friend of Mark May, Kevin Costner.
We're tight.
Hosts a special presentation of the CBS Wednesday movie. Didn't you hang in Chicago?
Yeah, we were together. I introduced you in Chicago.
Yeah, that was nice of you. The Bodyguard. You can hear behind-the-scenes stories that have never been told until now. Kevin going to dinner with Mark May.
Picked up the check.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Oh. The Bodyguard. It's Wednesday on CBS.
It's making $20 million a movie. I'm not making $2 million in my lifetime, of course.
Oh, you know, what are you, crying for poverty now? Give me a break. Annuity kicks in. You're a whole new man. first down. Neil O'Donnell handing it off to Rodney Thomas. So yes, we are now going to see backups on the offense. Wally Rayner with a stop. O'Donnell got an opportunity last week against one of his former teams, the Cincinnati Bengals.
What was impressive last week is he guided his team right down the field to play, executed magnificently the offense under Mike Heimerdinger, their offensive coordinator, and took him into the end zone. A lot of teams don't have one starting quarterback. The Cleveland Browns are struggling to find a healthy one, and Tennessee has two.
Now, Neil O'Donnell would be starting for a number of teams around the NFL right now, but he was comfortable in the situation here in Tennessee as the backup and wants that Super Bowl ring. He's been to it twice, Pittsburgh and Tennessee, and he's come up short both times. Thomas again getting the call, and Marty Moore, Mr. Irrelevant back in 1994, the final player chosen out of Kentucky by the New England Patriots. He makes the stop. The clock is now rolling.
Sorry, you know what the amazing thing about the Mr. Irrelevant? It always seems to make the roster. The last player drafted just about every year, they make the roster. They end up playing in the NFL.
Well, Indianapolis, Jim Finn, right?
Yep.
Fullback who was with the Chicago Bears, got that free trip to Disney. Steve McNair has been Mr. Relevant in terms of what Tennessee has done offensively the last couple of years. And the Titans really did it the right way. They brought him along slowly. They got him familiar with the offense. And Tennessee has taken a timeout just as the play clock was about to run out. 9:15 left in the fourth. Tennessee rolling over Cleveland, 24-0. We're coming back. They'll keep the clock moving.
The one thing about Lorenzo Neal, he doesn't look comfortable catching the ball for some reason. It's like he's afraid to catch it after last week.
It's a lot of stutter step. Yeah. You ever notice that with Lorenzo?
He doesn't look smooth. He's not a Ferrari out there. He's more like one of those little but he gets the job done. That's one of the players that, hey, Eddie George thought he should be in the Pro Bowl. And, you know, you're looking at the true fullback. Richie Anderson wasn't voted to the Pro Bowl. He's more of an H-back. Right. A lot of receptions this year, but as the true fullback, the blocking, the guy that gets in there, sticks his head in there, and gets you the tough yards, that's Lorenzo Neal.
Well, changes for Tennessee on the offensive line. Hopkins, Matthews, and Miller all out. Scott Sanderson, Zach Tiller, and Jason Matthews in for them. On the handoff, Rodney Thomas for a gain of 4. And Marty Moore again makes the stop. Well, let's talk about Tennessee and what the future holds for them. They will wrap up their season Monday night game at home against the Dallas Cowboys. A victory there would give them the top spot in the AFC and home field advantage throughout. They will host games at Adelphia Coliseum, where they are very tough, 15-1 all time. Is this the team that's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl in your mind?
I think so, and I think because this is a solid team in every facet of the game. They're in the top 6 in all special teams category. A great rushing team, a physical defense. They don't give up a lot of points, and they play as a team. Not a lot of Eagles on this football team.
O'Donnell to Yancey Thigpen, former teammates with the Pittsburgh Steelers, now doing their work in Tennessee uniforms, and that turns out to be a big gainer.
And how about Yancey Thigpen? Here's a guy that, when they brought him in here, they brought him in as a starter. He just can't get on the field. One, because of injury. Now he's healthy. He can't crack the starting lineup along with Carl Pickens.
Funny, though, Steve McNair said it's strange to see the role reversal because Thigpen and Pickens are so accustomed to starting throughout their careers. Now they're hungrier as they try to prove to the coaching staff that they belong back in that starting lineup.
And the other thing that's great is they check their egos outside of the locker room. Once they get in that locker room, these guys are teammates, and that's what's key. That's what gets you to world championships.
On 1st and 10, straight up the gut for Rodney Thomas, who scampers ahead for a gain of 5. Under 7 minutes to play now in the fourth, and Courtney Brown makes the stop for Cleveland. Well, the dedicated fans who have stuck this one out, most of them have made their way to the exits. As the Browns wrap up their 2000 season, for the second year in a row, their bye comes week 17, which is strange.
And I don't like that. And I know it's because there's not an even number of teams in the NFL, but the key is I just don't like teams having to bye the last week of the NFL season. Now, I don't think it's fair. I think you have to go through the entire season without it. And I played in an era before we had that, where everybody went through the entire season without a bye.
On the handoff, Rodney Thomas again trying to run off tackle and able to pick up 3.5 or 4. It'll be 3rd and about 1. And for the Browns, it does turn out to be disappointment again after winning 2 games in 1999, their first year back. He isn't there anymore. The honeymoon is over, however you want to put it. Browns fans expected results this year. And if this team stayed healthy, I would say they probably could have won 6 or 7 games. I don't think they would have won 9. Probably wouldn't have won 8. But a healthy team for Chris Palmer, you're probably looking at a 6-10 type season, maybe 7-9 if things broke correctly.
Absolutely, and that's a major leap from 2 wins the previous year. Then next year is the year you set your sights on 500 or better and possibly a playoff or a wild card shot.
Thomas got sandwiched as he ran into Kevin Long, the center. And maybe the expectations unrealistic because of what Jacksonville and Carolina, the most recent expansion teams, did in their second year.
But the NFL changed the deck against the Cleveland Browns. They didn't get as many draft picks. Here's a Cleveland Brown organization that a lot of people tend to forget. Now, the NFL pool is a little thin. There aren't as many players out there that are quality players, so there are not a lot of players to choose from. So when you go out and look for backups in free agency, they're just not there.
And you see what Carolina and Jacksonville did, turning things around. Cleveland going more along the ways of Seattle and Tampa Bay back in 1976. And Houston will be getting a franchise, not next season, but the year after. On 4th down, Tennessee goes for it, and Earl Little greets Rodney Thomas. Browns have stopped the Titans, and Tennessee turns it over. The Tennessee Titans will improve to 12-3 this year, 8-2 in the division. Baltimore still has that outside chance. If they can win out, they would get the tiebreak over Tennessee. Amazingly, Jeff Fisher said to us, we go 13-3 last year. Let's say they wrap up 12-4 if there was a loss at the end of the season, and they still wouldn't have a division title to their credit. Peterson in the pocket. Over the middle, a pass and a catch to Jamel White. And a gain of 5. Frank Chamberlain, backup middle linebacker, makes the stop.
Now, when you look at the AFC, the total picture of the teams that are out there, the teams that have really made the leap this year. And you look at Baltimore Ravens, that's a team that's made a major. And I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's a team that everybody thought this year would be maybe a 5 or 6 win football team. And Bill Cowher alternating quarterbacks. They're going to be minimum 500 this year, possibly 9-7.
What about the game against Cleveland? If they win that game, if they're able to line up and kick a field goal to possibly tie it, as Peterson has his pass completed to Bobby Brown, it would be a whole different complexion in the AFC. I know you can look at every team and say, if this, if that, but that game was so cut and dry. Steelers, it's like a fire drill at the end of the game where they couldn't get their field goal unit onto the field because Kent Graham took the sack. And right now, they might be looking at a playoff spot in the AFC. Indianapolis outside looking in. Buffalo on the outside looking in. Sidearm delivery, Peterson to Aaron Shea. And he breaks a tackle, and he picks up 5 yards out to midfield.
That's what makes the NFL unique, and it makes it exciting every year. For the fans, they can cheer their teams. And there's always that team every year that kind of gets into the playoffs and surprises you. I think Baltimore is one of those teams. I think the Jets. A lot of people thought, the Jets, they weren't going to be there this year. They thought maybe 5-6 wins.
Right, no Parcells. Al Gross stepping in, his first head coaching job in the NFL, and the Jets appear to be on their way to the playoffs if they can hold off the Detroit Lions. And Peterson's pass incomplete. He was looking for Jamel White. Chance to tell you that the executive producers of the NFL on CBS, Sean McManus and Terry Ewert, coordinating director of the NFL on CBS, Larry Cavallina. Today's game produced by Victor Frank, directed by Suzanne Smith. Senior producer of the NFL Today is Eric Mann. NFL Today directed by Bob Matina. Coordinating producer of CBS Sports, Harold Bryant. Ball at midfield on a 3rd and 5. Peterson sends Brown in motion, deep drop. Peterson. Intercepted? No. Dropped. Denard Walker had a chance. The associate director of today's game, Deb Gelman. Broadcast associate, Mark Burkhardt. Field technical manager, Tom McCarthy. Technical director, Chris Romanek. Lead videotape in the truck, Neil Geyer, has done a great job throughout the season. And help, as always, from Dave Freed, our statistician. Jim Stamos, our spotter. Extra work in the truck from Neil Silver. The cameraman today, dealing with the elements. Great work in Cleveland, Ohio, as the Browns wrap up their season. NFL, though, more week left in the regular season. Peterson on 4th down. He gets walloped by Bullock. Incomplete. And the Browns turned it over on downs. I don't think I've ever done a game where teams have turned it over on downs more than today. There's no reason to punt or kick field goals if you get the ball to midfield but shy of the 30 or 35, because with the wind the way that it's working, it'll be an adventure.
You have to take your shots, and obviously Cleveland's taking their shots today, but it was a mismatch coming into this game. You look at the Tennessee Titans, a team obviously I feel is the best team in the AFC, going against the depleted Cleveland Brown football team.
Now, lopsided matchup on paper, and it turned out to be a lopsided matchup on the field as well. Doug Peterson, his future very much up in the air with the Browns organization. He's under contract, but if Couch comes back, if Detmer comes back, then you'd have to think Peterson, odds are he's not going to be a third QB. They'd rather see what Spurgeon Wynn can try to develop their young player. Rodney Thomas on the carry. Dalen McCutcheon with a stop. And now time will tick away as we come up on the 2-minute warning. 14 players on injured reserve.
Most in the NFL.
7 different quarterbacks on this roster this season. Want to look at the small victories? This team did get better defensively, more sacks than they had a year ago. They allowed less sacks than a year ago, and Couch just got clobbered as a rookie. 24-0, Tennessee. Don't forget, coming up next, second half of our doubleheader action, Peyton Manning and the Colts try to stay alive against Dave Wanstead's Miami Dolphins, or Trent Dilfer and the Ravens travel to the Valley of the Sun as they take on the Cardinals right here on CBS. 2nd and 2, less than 2 minutes left now in the 4th. Rodney trying to create. There was no hole for him. And the tackle made by Jameer Miller. Jeff Fisher, with a victory here today, becomes the all-time winningest coach in franchise history, passing Bum Phillips. And Jeff told us that it's quite an honor just to be mentioned in the same breath as Bum Phillips. He was a fan of his.
He told us he was a big fan of Bum Phillips coming into the NFL and in college, and his college roommate was drafted by Bum Phillips. But you look at Jeff Fisher, and I like guys that are ex-players that make it as head coaches. Those are usually coaches that are very successful in the NFL.
On the handoff, Thomas. And not enough for a first down. Darius Holland in on that stop along with Marty Moore. And the clock is moving now as we come up on 1 minute left in the 4th. Fisher's team has taken care of business. Coming into Cleveland, shutting down the Browns and shutting them out.
One thing about the Cleveland Browns, they'll be home for Christmas.
They are going to be home for Christmas.
And New Year's.
Season finale for the Browns. They will wrap up their second year back in the NFL at 3-13. And Chris Palmer drops to 5-27 in his 2-year tenure. And now the conjecture will begin. Will Palmer be back as the head coach of this Browns team? Little extra effort from Rodney Thomas. And it's enough. First down, Tennessee. Game over. 20 seconds left. Jeff Fisher and the Tennessee Titans move one step closer to wrapping up the #1 seed in the AFC. A 24-0 victory over the Cleveland Browns. Chris Palmer and company, that is the end of the 2000 season. Fisher felt that this Cleveland team was well coached, improved from a year ago, and he believes that Palmer should be back as the head man. AFC playoff picture. Tennessee remains in front. The top spot in the AFC. Baltimore is the one team that still could make some noise. Denver also in the mix. Big loss for the Oakland Raiders and the Jets now at 9-6, and they are going to be in a tough spot to maybe even make the playoffs. NFL Today is coming up, and the second half of our doubleheader, Indy at Miami, Baltimore at Arizona.
I believe the most impressive thing about the Tennessee Titans to me, because I believe they are the best in the AFC, the way that they finish. They finish games, they finish off the season, they finish off their opponents.
And the Titans have officially broken out of their offensive funk under tough conditions here today. It was the Eddie George show, 34 carries, 176 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 24-0, that's our final. The Tennessee Titans have knocked off the Cleveland Browns. improves to 12-3. For Mark May, our entire CBS crew, this is Ian Eagle. Tennessee keeps on rolling behind the